friends. This is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average babes come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A place where being yourself is the ultimate goal, where your opinion, your story, and your individual experience matters. Join me, your host B, and my guests for real and raw talks every week, laying it all out there so we can all help each other learn more, grow deeper, and evolve collectively. Now keep in mind, as a disclaimer, no one here is an expert and no one is giving any advice. This is strictly our opinions, thoughts, feelings, and for entertainment purposes only. Now with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Be Real Babe podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. I hope that you have a good time. And if you're a returning listener, watcher, supporter, thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for coming back time and time again. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandy. I am the host of the show. And today, guys, we're on episode 249, Being Real About Conspiracy Theories, Part 1. And today, you guys, I have my favorite girl, Robin, back on the show. And we're talking about conspiracy theories in general. Now, I know this is going to be a controversial episode, and I'm totally okay with starting 2026 that way because you guys, we need to just be real and be open and be honest about things that we've read online and what makes sense and what doesn't, right? We're all on different journeys here. No one knows shit about fuck, so this is just a really fun conversation about me and Robin going through how we woke up and what we learned about what the Matrix was, conspiracy theories, everything that's going on, all the lies, all that kind of shit in the world, and some of the deep ones that we've fallen into. But before we get to this awesome episode, I just want to remind you, if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or Rumble, to like, subscribe, turn on notifications if you can, and leave a comment if you're feeling so kind. If you are looking for me on social media, you can find me at the Be Real Babe podcast on TikTok or Instagram. Or if you want to email me, you can email me at theberealbabe@hotmail.com. Now, I'm probably going to leave this for sure decision till the end of the season, but there's a really good chance I'm going to have a decently long break until season 11. If your girl has been running hard for 5 full years, 10 full seasons, and I think between seasons 10 and 11, it's time for me to take a tiny break. But please let me know if that would be a problem, if anybody would be upset about that, or if you guys feel like it is time your girl takes an extra long break. So we might be looking at pushing season 11 until April, but we will see. Fingers crossed. I just promise you guys all the time that I'm going to go back and be better, and I do not have time. I get 2 weeks, and then I got to start the next season. And going up to that, after 10 full seasons, 5 full years of never missing one episode, I think it's time to take my little moment. So you guys let me know how you feel, if you support that or if not, or if you are somebody that wants to learn how to do podcasting stuff, that wants to help me. I'm totally open for help. I have no money. I don't make money. Just to be straight up, this would be for fun. But yeah, anyways, just sharing you guys where I'm at. I hope you love my conspiracy hat that I have on today. Nice and tinfoils, just to make sure that I don't go any crazier than I already am. But like I said, you guys, I want you to go into this episode with openness and just don't take everything so serious, right? At the same time, some of this stuff is serious and we need to worry about and talk about it. But either way, let's jump on to this amazing episode. All right, babes, it's time to get on to the show. And with me today, joining me for her 3rd time, I've got my babe Robin in studio. Hi.
Hey, girl.
I'm so excited to have you back. When this launches, it'll be Happy New Year. So Happy New Year.
Yay. I can't believe, a lot of people feel like 2025 was a dumpster fire. So let's hope 2026 is not, I'm here for it. We're going to make it a great year.
100%. And I think I'm just over the years, especially after the darkness of the pandemic, every time I get through another winter almost or halfway through, I'm like, yay, because it wasn't as dark as the last year, right? So it's just crazy how, I don't know, I feel like for me, I don't know if I was aware, and that's why it's perfect we're having this conversation on conspiracy theories today, because I definitely was just living my life, watching my shows on Thursday nights, watching my reality TV and, living life, not thinking anything, watching celebrities, watching Comic-Con, doing all those things. And then the pandemic completely changed how I see the world entirely. And then I became a conspiracy theorist, allegedly, and all that and all this. And so it's so good to me to look back at the different years and think how dark things were, because I was deep in conspiracies. And now it's I can look at them and talk to them without having that dread. So I'm very excited to go into 2026 because I feel like every year is a dumpster fire, but it's getting lighter. So is that fair to say? Did you have some dark times a couple years ago and feel like you feel a bit lighter now too?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the scamdemic actually is what woke me up. So, and people get upset if they don't think it's a scamdemic if you say that. So I think we should also, I'll preface this whole episode, we should explain to people what cognitive dissonance is. Yeah. If you don't know what it is, it basically means let's say you have a framework of what is your truth, right? Like
Mhm.
what you understand to be true. And then someone gives you a piece of information that makes you put that into question. And it can really be very upsetting, right?
Very much.
Um, and when I started to wake up, proverbially, it really was during COVID.
Yeah.
And I actually am thankful for it because I think if I hadn't woken up really quickly, I would have gone and vaxxed myself
Yeah.
and my family because I used to trust the medical system. They would, my doctor would be like, "You need this." I'd be like, "Okay, sign me up."
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just like they came on so strong with all of it. It's like it was just suspect,
Mhm.
right? It was
Mhm.
very suspect. So I mean, I don't know how your average person couldn't find it suspect how it was also coordinated and planned and just the whole thing. But I remember my good girlfriend Ashley, who I work with, started sending me information on Instagram, and then I was like, started going down these rabbit holes, and I remember like it was upsetting. I had cognitive dissonance, like, and this is when I started to morph into conspiracy Carrie, which is my alter ego. That's what my husband calls me. He's like, we'll go out to dinner, and he'll be like, "Don't bring conspiracy Carrie out tonight," you know.
I just like the memes.
He'll be like, "Don't." He was like, that was a little too. You came on a little strong last night, He'll like give me that look, like these people are not ready for that,
They're not. They're not.
But it was like there was all this information that I was like, exposing myself to, and I just remember I would sit on the toilet for hours. Like I would like go to take my last pee before I would go to bed, and then I'd get on and I'd be like, "Holy shit, this
Yeah.
is juicy!" And I'd
Yeah.
start going down these rabbit holes. And 3 hours later, I'm still sitting there. I've got a ring around my
Legs.
leg,
Yeah.
sitting on
Legs
the
are dead.
toilet. My butt has fallen asleep and it's tingly, like sad. But this is where it all this is
Sadly.
where all the good research happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But I also
agree.
remember
Morning
I
poops.
would expose myself to some really dark stuff
Yes.
and not sleep all night. Like I was so like holy shit,
Yes.
like your brain, which I had cognitive dissonance, and just like once you realize that the world is at a level of evil that you didn't realize before, it's very upsetting. And
It
then
is.
you're in a dark place because
Yes.
you know these things
Yes.
and other people around you still have no clue.
Yeah.
Like that, like pedophilia is a global currency.
Ah,
Adrenochrome, global currency. Like they are not conspiracies. Like there's so much information should you want to find it. You know what I
yes.
mean? And it's
Yes.
like, but it's very upsetting when you first find this stuff. Like I remember my mom, who's super awake about things, had found some stuff online and she was like, "I really wish I hadn't looked at that last night," and was like upset because it is upsetting, and your eyes are the window to your soul. So
Yes.
you can damage yourself if you go too deep, but
Totally.
it's also good that you know these things because I feel like once you've done the research, then when you see things, you're not surprised anymore,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And it makes sense. But I also feel like if you've gone down those rabbit holes, then and you've put the research and the time in, then you realize when you're being lied to, or you're more
Hmm.
likely to realize when you're being lied to. You're more likely to pick up on red flags or psyops,
Hmm.
or I should say false flags,
Hmm.
and you know how to look for the signs,
The patterns. Yeah.
before you would have been like, "Oh my gosh, it's so terrible this happened." When like now, like a lot of times, like if I know I can sense when there's a false flag, like I just know. Meanwhile, my husband will be really upset and he'll come to me and be like, "I can't believe you're not upset about the blah blah blah." You know what I mean? But
Yes.
to me, I'm
Yes.
like, I know it's false flag. I've already seen all the Masonic
Actors.
numbers they used
Yep.
and all the signs and symbolism. I'm not participating in this. I'm not letting them rob my energy and bring down my frequency.
Hmm.
Screw them.
Yeah.
I'm not participating because most of these events are their way of doing like a mass energy harvesting,
Yes.
because
Absolutely.
like not to go like so deep into it already, but like I mean, when I say like the world's run by a bunch of Satan worshipers, I am not being hyperbolic. I am being for real, like
Yes.
100%. That is what I believe.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this before. So again, okay, well, like my bad because I just jumped in because we were just talking before. But yeah, so episode about conspiracy theories and talking about the different ones that we've ran into and getting into that situation. But I was very much like you, and that's what I learned right away. And I think everyone has their wake up moment or their understanding that things aren't exactly as how they seem, right? And then they start looking into things. And I think the first time that you start becoming that way and starting questioning, I think at the beginning what they do is that you just start questioning something that is known to everyone. For example, birth control is safe and effective. Okay, it's probably ineffective that you're not going to have a child and have birth for sure. Is it safe though? Probably not. And the minute you say that, majority of people that are on birth control are going to have this cognitive dissonance, as we all do, because our whole entire lives, repeatedly, we've been told these things, right? And that's how cults and people manipulate you, is by repetitive, right? And obviously, we'll get into all of this, but um, this is just one that I find like now is more mainstream, that birth control is very dangerous, and didn't start in a good space. Like it literally like wiped out and fucked up a whole bunch of Puerto Rican women, but people don't want to talk about that, right? So we're just told this narrative
And it
birth
messes up
controls
people every day.
every single day. As being one of them, as a millennial, that's fucked up now, and a lot of us are, because we were put on it at a young age because our parents were like, hey, don't have a bunch of kids, that's not a good idea, so let's, why not put you on birth control? We didn't have the choice, you guys now have the choice, let's put you on there, without having much understanding of where this came from, why it came in, who, like Margaret Sanger, like that's a whole deep dark rabbit hole. So that was the first one I in, and I very much was like, the reason why I didn't have cognitive dissonance to birth control is safe is because I was very sick from it. I got fucked up from it. I've been in the like in and out of doctors' offices since I was 16 years old because of my period and all the different shit that happened with me for birth control. So for
Oh,
me, going into the pandemic, I already had this thought in my mind of being like, people of power or authority or educated people can lie to you, whether they mean to or not. So I had this
mhm.
in the back of my head going into the pandemic. So when I first fell down the rabbit holes because I was stuck in my house because I watched Tiger King, I tell everyone the reason, my pipeline to become a conspiracy theorist was Tiger King, because we were stuck in the house and I was working from home and Grant was home and we were just like cruising Netflix and we watched Tiger King. And I just thought, there's no fucking way the world is like this. Like this can't be real. This has to be like a joke. And then I started like researching, and I think that was the time that everybody was researching stuff. And they started researching the pandemic. And then depending on where your algorithm was, I think shot you down two different areas. One area where you're questioning everything and everything's fucked and real people are getting compressed, and then where you were completely fear mongered and kept away from all that kind of stuff. So when I
Mhm.
came up to that, I was like, well, this is weird. And then I found The Fall of the Cabal, where she explained what cognitive dissonance was at the very beginning of the series. And I was like, be open minded. Be open minded about the information that you're going to hear, because of this one time that everybody told you that birth control was safe and effective, and you have been sick and going through this for years, showing you that maybe not everything is as it seems. So I feel like, in a fucked up way, I feel blessed to have had that experience early on, so that
Yeah.
I was very hesitant when someone was telling me something is safe and effective and I heard that messaging. At the same time, as the pandemic happened, my first rabbit hole on YouTube was anti MLM and cults and mind control and all of that. So I'm watching this, and then I found The Fall of the Cabal, and then it just kind of opened me up to the point where it got so dark. It got to frazzle drip, it got to adrenochrome, it got to,
Mhm.
like the very dark places of sex trafficking. And then you go on mainstream media and it's like, oh, these are all conspiracies. And then this is the part that I struggle with now, is that now I go back because I'm looking for our episode today and I'm like, I'm going to find the shit that I found back then. A lot of shit has changed in the wording online over the last 5 years, right?
Oh, there's so much censorship going on.
It's insane. And so I'm like, I can't even cite some of these places anymore because they've disappeared.
I think they killed the woman that actually produced The Fall of the Cabal.
She's dead. Yeah, yeah. She went on past the vaccine once. I think she was at episode like 25 or something like that. And then she passed or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
But to preface
Not
that,
surprisingly. If you
yeah.
speak too much truth, they will find a way to get rid of you or silence you.
And it just, and so again, to preface, like you did at the beginning of this, I think it's very interesting how things get labeled conspiracy when I think I'm just asking questions. I'm just a curious bug. I just need to know because I've been fucked up by medicine. I feel like I've watched the government lie and destroy all everybody's countries. Like
Mhm.
when I look at stuff, I just want to be open minded. And it makes me sad that immediately you're deemed as a conspiracy theorist when you're just finding information and asking questions. That's it.
Mhm. Yep.
Why is that
100%.
such a bad thing? You know what I mean? Like, I thought
Yeah.
curiosity was good. It might have
Well,
killed the
that's their way
cat, but
of trying to get people to shut up. And actually, the term was created by the CIA
yes. So,
to like quiet people and to discredit them.
yes,
You know,
yes, yeah. And
it's an easy way to make people look dumb and like kind of pass them off easily.
exactly. So, you know what's kind of funny about that? So, that's what I had learned. So, I went back this morning to look at that, to be like, da 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 da. If you go look on Wikipedia now, that has completely changed. They're now saying that that is now completely debunked, da 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 da. But when I researched this, that's exactly all the information I could find. So this is the part now where I'm starting to get frustrated because I'm like trying to go back to show things and then they're altering stuff online, altering what words mean, altering all of those things so that it just gets completely cleaned up. And then you just feel like you're chasing your tail because you're like, go research it. But then they
Yeah,
changed
it's
the
like they're gaslighting us when you know it was there, but they are changing our perception because they are censoring. That's why, I mean, I
that's
think
why I
that's
get so
what we all
frustrated.
have to realize is that we have been lied to on so many levels. And I think that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in, is that it's also
Yes.
part of ego, is that people have a hard time accepting or admitting that they've been lied to.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
and I'm not talking little lies. I'm talking
Mm-mm.
like every layer is a lie, like even down to, at least my belief, like even down to the shape of the earth,
Mm.
stuff about God, where he comes from, where we come from. I don't believe we were evolved from amoebas. I just don't. We are complex beings. Like even smart
Something more.
scientists who don't believe in God will say things like, we are too complex to have evolved
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Very fair.
like what is it they call it? Like intelligent design.
Hmm.
Like, you know, like we didn't just appear this way.
No. Didn't you
So
know
I just oh
Scientologists? We came from Xenu. Didn't you know that? Like, and this is one thing that I find so crazy is like when you start questioning the world, the God, how we're delivered things. On one side, people can say government is corrupt. Fuck the government. There's all these things like yes, they lied to us, but then you bring up something and you're like, okay, what about this? Like, oh, they don't lie about that. You're like,
right. Oh, well, that's what like
but
a
not
lot
about
of
this
people
one.
will be like, I'm open-minded, I'm a conspiracy theorist, and then if you mention something about Trump, they'll shut it down because they've been brainwashed about Trump. And so I think you
Exactly.
just have to realize like every level we have been lied to
Hmm.
from the moment you come out of the womb, even like like our law system, like the history timeline we're taught. I mean, I just learned this the other day, which I already don't trust what I was like. We cannot trust what we were taught in school because
Yeah,
that's
fair.
what they wanted us to know.
Yeah.
That's what they want us to think.
Hmm.
Kind of like the Truman Show. They all thought, you know, that guy, he thought he was living, that was his life, right? That
Yeah.
was his life
Yeah.
that they created for him and wanted him to believe. And that is like the same with us. Like they've created this system and this, they want us to believe a certain way.
Hmm.
That's why, you know, we go to government sponsored schools. They choose the curriculum. Like I just found out the other day, you know who owns the publishing house who does all the school books, the textbooks?
I'm sure Rockefeller
Um,
at some
what's
point.
it's Ghislaine Maxwell's dad. What is his name?
Oh, oh shit. What was
Is
his
it
name?
Murdoch?
I can't remember his name.
Um,
Is he
but
alive
it's her
still?
dad. He was
Oh,
the one that owns like McGraw Hill. Like, so it's like, how can you not question that we're being lied to on every single level,
yeah.
you know? And, but that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. It's like, okay, well, if you believe what you were taught in those textbooks, then when you are presented with facts that go against what you were taught, that's when the cognitive dissonance sets in and people get upset like, oh, that
Yes.
can't be true. Or like my husband says to me all the time, there's no way they could cover all of that up, or that the lie would be that big. And I'm like, I don't think you've, I think you should research this more. And for me, where it comes to, and this is like when you talked about like kind of how I, like, how did I wake up?
Hmm.
I
Yes.
sort of went through this period where I had grown up in the church and then I fell away and I got into like a lot of new agey stuff. And that was sort of where I went for spirituality. But when I started waking up, all my rabbit holes brought me back to God and the Bible. And that is actually what really woke me up, was I realized that a lot of stuff that in the Bible had been covered up,
Right.
and
Yes.
like down to like the shape of the earth and the way they've
Yes.
even interpreted, you know, scripture. Like if you look at like the original version, like the uncorrupted versions of the Bible, the way they describe the earth as a flat plane, and then, you know, later versions they'll change the wording to say breadth and things like that, and take out the
Yes.
word plane and stuff like that. But then you just start to realize, like, this was for real. Noah's flood was for real. The giants in the Bible were for real. They were from the fallen angels that were referenced in Genesis 6. Like, you know what I mean? And like,
Yep.
I've done all this outside research that then
Brings you
was,
back.
yeah, that was then confirmed in the Bible. And then if you go deeper outside of that and it comes back to that, you're like, oh,
Shit.
well, dang.
Yeah. And
You
then you
know?
see where information control has been historic through time, right? And so I think one thing that people can maybe see the comparison to. So let's think back. So the Bible, I don't know much about it. We've talked about it. I haven't read it. I was raised in an atheist home, and then grew into more agnostic. And then as we talked in the coming years, again, bringing me to God was actually learning about pedophiles in Hollywood. And I think it was, what was her name? Liz Cronkin, I think her name is, that did a bunch of documentaries. Have you seen those ones? It was like Pavement Princess. It was all about like Lindsay
Oh,
Lohan and just
no, I
like, okay, so I'll send you this. So it was before I actually watched The Fall of the Cabal. I kind of watched more one on Liz. Her name is Liz Cronkin, and she was an investigative journalist in Hollywood. And she was like really pushing. She talked about Epstein. She talked about these parties. She talked about the Clintons. She talked about all of this stuff. And she got pushed out of Hollywood so quick and
yeah, you
ex-nayed,
can't
and
talk about that stuff.
yeah, so that was the kind of the first things where I learned that Hollywood was more like more than just entertainment. And then it kicked
Yeah,
me back to the time where it was like, well, that's what they did in the Colosseums, was distract people while the governments were doing stuff. And now it's on such a huge level. But anyways, if people could go back and think the Bible, this is where my understanding was one of the things that I think I said to you, where they said that they took out, there's missing pieces of the Bible. And a lot of the things that are missing are things that actually will teach us how to be the best to be, to live the life that we're supposed to have. One of them being fasting and prayer essentially heals all disease. From my understanding, again, you guys, I've never read any of this.
yeah,
This is just
yeah.
the
No,
shit I
you're
see
right.
online,
That
right?
was taken out.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we can all agree that shit has been removed from the Bible, right? We're all in agreement. This is how I get people to come onto my conspiracy thought mind, let's say, which I think is just thinking mind and theoretical thinking. But anyway, so
Because we
we
use our brains and ask questions.
I try, and it is a stoned one, and it is crazy. So I understand where people are like, but I'm like, help me figure this out. Like, no, like help me put this together, right? So we know that there's stuff missing from the Bible that's very important in healing, right? Number one.
Yeah,
Two,
yeah.
we know that back in the day, books were burned. Right. So we can all agree
Mm-hmm.
that those are facts. So Bible change, books burned. We know that radio was government controlled, right? So we're
Yep.
talking above boomers only got information through the radio, and that was very much government funded. Then we go to the TV. Same thing. Television, they're
Which
telling
was
us what you
patented
want to
as
know.
a mind control device.
Exactly. And we're learning these things through wars and all this kind of stuff. It's all out there. So we can agree that TV can help funnel our minds, our thoughts, right? Like smart, intelligent people understand this.
Yeah,
Watching murders all the time and killing is making us less humanitarianism, less. We don't care now as much when we see murder because we're seeing it. The Charlie Kirk thing, I think, was another thing. Why the fuck was that allowed, real or not? Was to our brains don't know the difference. Our brains don't know the difference if that was real or not. So our brains are starting to get morphed. Now we've come to
yeah.
the
Well,
time
notice
where,
how much they played that,
oh my god, I was
but
sick to my
yet they would
stomach.
not, like, you know what I mean?
A
That
hundred
was so
percent.
orchestrated. Like the whole thing was,
Totally, it's fucked. But my point being is like we can all agree a lot of the times when you break down why people come to these conspiracy theories, right? Which I
mhm.
again think that that word is used to disengage any conversation about it for sure. But it's like if we can agree on the basic things, like they took stuff out of the Bible, they have book burned, they've had media, like government funded media through radio, television, now social media, and the amount of censorship that's coming online. How can you sit there confidently and say, not you, I know everything and none of this stuff could be real? That's where I get, right? Like I look at all these different ways that things have been suppressed. I look at the world and all the different religions, all the knowledge that's out there. And I don't know how one person can sit there and say, I know everything and just be so closed off that it might be not what you know. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
that's just how I think about it. So, like, when you hear conspiracy theories, can you just not like dissect it and find some of the truth within it? Because some of it's crazy, right? Like during the pandemic, I was told if people took the vaccine, there's going to be bodies everywhere. Like, that didn't happen. Like, they're not in that sense, but a lot of people got sick. But because the conspiracy theory was everyone's going to drop dead from the vaccine, no one took any thought to stop and go, okay, well, maybe not everyone's going to drop dead, but well, not everyone, but are there going to be repercussions from this? It was like, oh, okay, if you believe that, then you must be a conspiracy theorist. It's like, wait, but hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was just a
Well,
huge, but like, you know what I mean?
pardon
Like
me
people,
for asking questions or thinking maybe it's a bad idea to take something that's been rushed through with no research, and also there's 100 documents of side effects and things that can't be published for 100 years. No, that's not suspect at all.
no,
Like, you
or the
know,
companies don't have immunity, or that you can't sue them, or you got censored for talking about it. You know what I mean? So I think at the
yeah,
end of the day, on top of the cognitive dissonance, once you're aware that that is a thing, I think
yeah,
the other part is when you hear something, because there are extremes in conspiracy, which pisses me off because then it takes away from the actual. You know what I mean? Like where some
yeah,
people get so grandeur and so I know it all that it like evades people from asking questions and thinking critically, you know? Like, and maybe
yeah,
that thought pattern you got to is wrong. I've been
yeah.
wrong so many times, but at least you're thinking it.
I think it comes down to ego. You have to
Yeah,
be willing to be open minded enough to accept new things. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yes.
Like, even me in the process of writing my cookbook, they're like, they wanted me to do a carnivore cookbook.
Yes.
I was like, I would like it to be animal based. In the process of writing it, I basically discovered that, like, which I was already going down this path, but like
Yes.
that extreme low carb eating will actually wreck your thyroid,
Mm.
which is really totally against all the people pushing low carb eating, even sugar. Like, everyone's like, sugar's the devil. And I'm like, well, you might actually need some sugar. You know what I mean?
Processed.
It's
Yeah.
just a
Like,
real unpopular opinion. So I'm like, dang,
yes.
I keep like red pilling myself, but I think you
Yes.
have to be willing to be open to it and accept when you get new information. Like, I remember I got in this like and I hate it when this happens because I'm like, oh Lord, please don't make me have to be that person that upset someone today.
Yes, please. Yeah.
But I was at my in-laws house over like last summer, a couple summers ago. Remember that movie came out? It was like, it was called like um the freedom ring, or something about like child trafficking.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
what was it called?
Yes. It. Oh shit. Not Tim
You know what I'm
Pool. I was
talking
gonna
about.
say Tim Pool. Yeah. The. Oh
Which I
fuck.
actually feel like, probably for the people, like, it was probably revelation of
Oh,
the
I'm gonna go.
method, because I actually think
Yes.
the producers were Freemasons themselves, so they're probably, you know what I
I
mean?
gotta
Like, if you
Google
go
it.
down, but it actually woke a lot of people up.
Yes.
And my father-in-law was like, I can't believe it. They were implying that the government is involved in these child trafficking rings and blah blah blah. And then my brother-in-law goes, because I don't know, he goes, and that these senators and government officials and the politicians at a high level are involved. And then my brother-in-law goes, no, that's not true. That's fake news. And I go,
Hold on.
I was like, oh shit, now I'm gonna have to go down this, but I cannot just sit here and let him say that, because it's like, you know what I mean? Like, how can you blatantly, and so then I had to be like, well, actually, no, that is true. And when you dig into it and you realize that most of these politicians are indeed Luciferians, and most of
Yes.
them are Freemasonry, which is the same as being is Luciferianism at the
Yep.
highest level, which is roped into the Kabbalah. Um, where in the Kabbalah it says you can have sex with like a 3-year-old, a 9-year-old, and all these things with no repercussion, and it's totally fine. So yeah, it is a thing.
It is a thing. And that's the one thing too where I said to other people, just because you don't believe in it, just because you don't maybe, and I will say I've had someone in the past that I worked for was like a Satanist, quote unquote, and he said that true Satanism is actually not what is being like sensationalized on social media and all that, that there's different branches of it. And I was like, that's fair. That absolutely can be fair, and I understand that. But the thing
Yeah.
of it is whether you're a part of a group or not, there's going to be extremists. And my only problem with any sort of group is when they refuse to call out the extremists within their own group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could sit here and be
Hmm.
like, yeah, I think about things. I want to know things. Some things, like one big conspiracy theory that I always thought was true and I would be like, always like tout it is the Titanic. And then
Yeah.
because at the beginning, that's what I found. And I couldn't find any dissenting information to that being this conspiracy theory that there were people in the Federal Reserve that were on there. And this was all a ploy by JP Morgan and all this. Like I was in firm belief. And again, I'm not saying it is or not, but I was like saying that confidently with my chest. And then somehow, like I said, it's like my algorithm changed. And I started seeing, okay, well, this is the data going against that. No, you couldn't just, like some people were saying, for example, that they switched the boats, that there was a smaller boat that they switched at the end. And again, maybe they could. I don't know anything about boats. And I do know that we've been lied to, but I also know that I am also a perfect uh, candidate for a cult, because I really truly want to believe things sometimes, you know, and I've gotten
Yeah.
better at it. So I was definitely like, yes, this is real, da 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 da. And then, like I said, I switched out to this where people are saying like it's not that easy just to switch everything on a boat, and the numbers, the serial numbers that are found at the bottom of the ocean. And to your point, like your husband, then I'm always like, okay, well, that seems very elaborate. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
my frustration is that some things there's a root of truth in it, and then there's some that just go wild, and then you're all of a sudden, and then you're researching, but then this is we're gonna have my tin hat on, is that I do believe that then you're now carted to a pipeline or a thought process, and unless you remove yourself and look at opposite views, you're always going to be fed this information. I believe that is exactly what ChatGPT and Grok and all of those things are doing, is that they're pushing you deeper into your own echo chamber and not
Yeah.
allowing you to see dissenting information, almost just like they did when there was book burning. So you can understand why
Yeah.
people don't believe stuff, because we've seen corruption, we've seen conspiracy theories come true. But there's also a part where we have to like be also based in reality too, right?
Yeah.
And how do we know? I mean, at this point, are we just a hologram and I'm just an NPC being played by somebody else? Like, I hope that
I don't know.
I don't know. Like, that's how deep I've gone, where it's like, does it even fucking matter any? No, but you know what I mean?
I know. It's
It's like,
crazy.
right? And so it's like, it's to me, it's stories and information. I don't live my life based off of these things that I've learned online, because I understand that I could have been pushed down my own algorithm and echo chamber, and I was during the
Yeah.
pandemic, and I very much acted like a fool. And so now I really go forward with a lot of more cognitive dissonance. Almost, it's like I understood it, but I didn't understand the grasp that the truth side, or what, you know what I mean, like that side could fuck you up. I think we talked about this last time, like the healthy crunchy side could also
Yeah.
get you a little too far down the rabbit hole too, right? Is
Yeah.
that fair to say for you? Like, do you feel like sometimes it's frustrating when you see the extremes, because it takes away from stuff that is in fact true?
Yeah. Well, and it also just takes the joy out of a lot of things because you've been
Yeah.
down so many rabbit holes, you
I
know?
can't even watch a movie
Um,
anymore.
yeah. Or you can't
Eat
eat
anything.
out, or, like, I mean, literally, I mean, I think the basis of everything that's going on at the most basic, but not basic, very big level is good versus evil.
Yes.
God versus
100%.
Satan. Even for non-believers, you have to recognize that there's like that's the force going on, right? I think there's a level of naivete that people have, that they're like, surely they couldn't be that evil. Yeah, once you realize like we really are in a spiritual war, then yeah, like, and if you've got a spiritual faction that's doing everything they can to go against God and also pervert God
Mhm.
God's creations,
Mhm.
then really all that stuff is possible, right?
100%.
But what I think is happening now, kind of to your point, I don't know if I'm really answering your question, is
No.
you can end up in your own echo chamber
Yes.
to the point where you don't accept new information. You're so like, and then you can get manipulated. Like, that's how that whole Q movement started, was they were taking advantage of people who were trying to seek the truth,
It
right? And
got
that
me
was
too.
actually sponsored by the government. The whole
Exactly.
Canon, that was basically the same tactics that were used in the Bolshevik Revolution, right? Like, so, instead of teaching people to be like, okay, what's going on? Are we
Self-sufficient.
going to fight back? That
Yeah.
everyone's like, trust the plan. You know
Ah,
what I mean?
the white
And
hats.
they got two people by quote unquote being conspiracy theorists, right?
Mhm.
Like that whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I think also what's going on right now is that they're being a conspiracy theorist, aka, or just questioning the narrative and asking questions.
Mhm.
They're capitalizing on that,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
the
Yes.
powers that be, the government, the
Yeah.
evil people, and they're planting more conspiracy theories. So
Mhm.
then they will plant a conspiracy theory
Mhm.
that is not true, that will then get people to like cling
Soak
to that
onto it.
knowledge, which is
Yes.
actually covering up bigger knowledge that they don't want you to know.
Exactly. Or a
And I'm trying to find a
distraction.
good example of this, but probably Q is a good example
Yeah.
of that, right?
I would say a big one too would be things like the Diddy and Epstein cases, where they're distracting everybody's, and fucking yeah, I got sucked right into the Diddy case. Okay. Point blank period.
Yeah.
But before, we were caught up in the Epstein case while COVID shit was coming out, right? And like, and that's the thing. It's like, to me, I do believe there's this like, oh, we're gonna get Diddy, but like y'all don't even know what's going on behind back there. Like, do you want to go into Ellen and like all of that? Like, again, I don't know that any of this shit is real. Okay, I don't know any of these Hollywood people. I don't know any of these people in these conspiracies. However, it's like you can't dismiss some of the fucked up stuff that you see and that we don't understand. And like, again, we can say that there's evil. Have you not ever watched Law and Crime? That's like my favorite channel on YouTube. I don't know why, but like the amount of fucked up things that we see everyday people go into court for. Imagine if you're rich and powerful and owned everything and you do fucked up shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
I even fell down the conspiracy of the queen of, like, the queen and the royalty in the British came here into Canada because obviously we're part of the whatever the fuck. What is that called?
You know, the U.S. is
The
technically still owned
Commonwealth.
by England too,
Yeah,
so we just
yeah, the
feel like, yeah,
Commonwealth,
look
right?
at all the documents. This is another deep rabbit hole. We actually never like separated. That's another
Interesting.
rabbit hole.
Right. And so it's all this stuff that you're just like, it's so much information. It's just, anyways. So one of the biggest conspiracies I had heard is that they came here, they took children from the residential schools, which is obviously a very big thing here in Canada, and would have hunting parties. And this goes back to like Victoria Gouffre, like confirming this
Yeah,
through her court documents. So it's like, we know some of this stuff is real.
yeah,
But there's just this level, like, you have cognitiveness, like I said, I think it's just like these levels of it, and then you get pushed into these different ones that confuse you even more. So then say you're like, oh, I don't believe this, and you like type in the comment section, this is how deep I am, I don't believe this is it, then you're immediately going to get pushed in more information validating your ego of that you are right, and then you feel more
hmm,
emboldened, and then you fight people more online and be like, what are you talking about, do your research, where it's like, when I go to research now, there's just, it's so different. Does that make sense? So I feel like people have to understand that they're also being played, and we are in another world where it's just an information war, right?
yes, one
And
hundred
you
percent.
can get so caught up into it, but I think at the end of the day, and then I want to go into some of the ones that you had written down, but I think at the end of the day, one thing that was the biggest takeaway for me is, like you said, understanding and knowing these things so that you're not crippled by this kind of information of how evil the world is. One, the world's always been this evil. We just have internet now, right? Like, we're able to find this stuff a lot more than they ever can, and they're really struggling to control the evil. When I first started this journey, they kept saying every year the veil is going to be lifted even more, and I didn't understand what that meant. And now I understand it, that more corruption is going to keep coming out. Like, we think that Epstein and Diddy are it, like, they answered to somebody, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like, but there's all these other little, like, which the psyops on the side too, that's getting you distracted, and people fighting about this, fighting about this. Let's have people fight about climate change. Let's have people fight about gender. Let's have people fight about religion. Let's have people fight about politics. At the end of the
yeah,
day, we should just be focusing on how we're being and healing ourselves. And if we're spending all this time fighting about all these things, when are we coming back to ourselves? When are
yeah,
we working on ourselves? Where are we? And I think, again, that's going back to the messaging of God and what God wanted for all of us. And that is separating us away from that, which makes it
one
even
hundred percent.
harder because most of the conspiracy theories are about separating people and religion and God.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Amen, sister. Amen,
So it's
sister.
like,
When they're a
fuck.
distraction, is what they are,
Exactly. Like,
right?
there's
And
that
I am the first to admit that I am easily distracted.
100%. Like, oh, shiny hat. Just kidding. And I'm not saying
Like
we
at night, I'll go
shouldn't.
to bed and I'm like, I should probably read my Bible right now, but instead I'm going to go in the super niche Facebook group and look at a bunch of weird stuff that would really upset my husband because he'd be like, "What the hell?" You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, so. But I
Okay.
think what's going on, they plant some of the conspiracy
Mm-hmm.
theories, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're covers for bigger things that they don't want us to know about, because if you believe this theory, then you won't find about the other thing that actually happened, right? So there,
Exactly.
I think that happens a lot. So you have to like ask God for discernment, or you use your
Mm-hmm.
discernment, or
Mm-hmm.
and but um yeah, but I think the other thing that happens is while we're distracted,
Yes.
they are fucking us, is what they're doing.
100%.
Because
Yes.
usually what happens, like, we're going to be, let's say everyone's talking about politics, left side versus right side, Epstein, Charlie Kirk,
Yep.
whatever the latest
Yep.
thing is, they're secretly fucking us and passing another law that takes more of our rights away, like the law that says you can't speak out against Israel or you lose your right to travel, that was just passed here in the US.
I love that for you guys. I'm pretty sure we have something similar.
Well,
And
it's
that's
like,
what I
okay, wait a
mean, right?
second. All of a sudden, we've lost our freedom of speech. Like,
Yeah.
when did that happen?
Yeah. And
Like,
like,
okay, I'm pretty sure that freedom of speech means you can talk about whatever you want.
100%. 100%. And what I find super interesting too is when they drop stuff like that. Like, just recently, And that's where I struggle with the Epstein files, because some people are saying they're not real. They just use this as bait to move people back and forth, which I could see. But then there's all these victims and evidence of them too. And then, so that you get to this point where, like for me, I think things naturally happen, and I think things get created, and I think things that naturally happen get taken advantage of, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So I
Yeah.
feel like this is where people are so black and white, and there's got to be some gray in the middle, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like, absolutely, there's natural disasters. At the same time, there's weather modification. So when a situation comes up, if things are out of the norm, it's very fair for people to go, well, I know that there's patents for weather modification. I know they've used it in war. I know when the government finds something to inflict pain on people or control people, they don't usually let that go. Maybe not for us, but maybe for other people. Like where people can agree, did we use weather modification in war? Yes, we did. We all know that. That's not a lie. That's
And
not a
we continue to
conspiracy.
use it every single day.
Exactly. But if you can admit, and this is just where I get people to link to having the opening of that might be happening. We can admit it was in war. We can admit that other places in the world that do it, like in Dubai, I'm pretty sure, do not quote me on this, you can pay to not have rain on your wedding day. So if we can agree
Yep.
that there is a reaction to everything that happens in the world, again, not a scientist, could we not say that maybe someone in Dubai that's fucking with the rain here has made an opposite reaction to over this side of the world, because we're not God and we shouldn't be fucking with the weather, and therefore there's going to be some consequences here on Earth? Why can't we, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Yep.
again, not every single, in my opinion, not every single hurricane or every single storm or every single fire was created to take control. However, there are some. They
Yeah.
take advantages of the ones that are started by stupid people and they profit off it always, no matter whether they created it or not. Right. And so
Yeah.
I think people don't want to believe that, because the people
It's
that they
hard to understand.
trust.
It's hard to take in. Like
It
this has been really hard
is.
for my husband, and it's. I will say it has been challenging in our marriage
Of
because
course.
I woke up hard,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
It wasn't
and
easy. There was no loop for me. None.
yeah, and then I went from being fun loving, very naive party girl Robin to hardcore truther. You know what I
The
mean? Like
world's
this has been
over.
an evolution of 5 years, but like I
Yes.
am not the same person I was. You know
No.
what I mean? And I'm not the
Same.
same person he married.
Yeah.
He's still proverbial to say this in the matrix, and
Yes.
I have busted out of the matrix. So like
It's
when
hard.
I want to talk about I'm out of the matrix topics, it gives him cognitive dissonance, you know.
Yes.
So sorry, that's just like a side note. So it can be
Yes.
hard for people, but weather modification has been a really big one for me
Yes.
because I see it every day, and we live under the like we are in the country, like we have 30 acres, but we are under the flight path of an airport, and I started tracking all the flights on it's called radar flight path flight tracker 24, and I can see these planes. I saw it spraying the trails right in front of us, and I tracked on the app, and I'm like, that's interesting. Why would a plane fly in circles? Like,
What are you doing? You know what? Not to
like
sidetrack,
you
but it's
can't
so funny.
discount or discredit these things. Like this is real.
Yes.
And then you know, and then like I did watch that movie Climate Trails, I think is what it's called. And I just learned even more about tracking it. And they're like, just go on the NOAA website, NOAA.gov website, and there's so much patents around modification around hurricanes and rain. And of course, they say this is on the website because I was like, inquiring minds want to know about increasing rainfall, and they're like, or decreasing it. Of course, they say it's to avoid a hurricane. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then wants to increase wind velocity. And after going through Hurricane Ian and actually tracking exactly what happened, and this is before they knocked him off Instagram, but his name was Matt. Gosh, what was his last name? But he did like one of the first documentaries about chemtrails, and I watched his feed, and he showed using the NextRad radars all the chemtrails that were being sprayed on the storm, the EMFs they dropped to keep the storm in place. And I remember living through it and feeling the storm die down, and then coming right back up again. I'm like, how the fuck does that happen? Like,
Yes.
I've been through a lot of hurricanes, you know what I mean? I've lived in Florida since 2008, and I just saw like it was almost a category 5. Like it was snapping the trees like toothpicks in my backyard. Like I watched the whole thing, and I'm just like, it really red pilled me seeing the level of destruction that they're doing. But like they use this to do whatever it is that agenda they're trying to carry out. Like, yes, not
Absolutely.
every storm is engineered, but
Yes.
you can damn well expect that we don't know what real weather is anymore because they
Nope.
manipulate it so
Yeah.
much. And now the latest thing I've seen is that I just saw, because I don't know if it's happened for you, but I've noticed a really big uptick in the chemtrail spraying. And it's very bothersome to me. Of course, they say that it's banned in Florida. That's bullshit. The
Right.
hotline they say that you're supposed to call doesn't exist.
Oh.
Because I tried to call it, it doesn't. There's no number on the website that they list. So
Yes.
I think it's just a farce or some kind of
Yeah.
hoax to make a, probably to attract more people to Florida to think we're the free state.
Yeah.
Like
Very
they,
fair.
whatever it is, but
Yeah.
it does, like, it's fake.
Yeah.
But it's just, oh, but so then this insider from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation just came out and said that it's part of the population control, because think of the stuff they're spraying. It's heavy metals, it's barium, it's strontium, it's all the things. Like, this is getting into your body. This is what you're breathing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I read this book called Conspirators Hierarchy a couple years ago, and it was written by, of course, but it basically talks about all these things that the government, like all these agencies and these
Mm-hmm.
like Club of Rome and everything. Um, of course, it's tied into Freemasonry, but the point is that I learned that, like, they've had signed into various laws that people, and bills that people don't know about, and it's probably just tucked away.
Mm-hmm.
Depopulation goals have been in place for a long time.
It starts back with Margaret Sanger and the fucking birth control. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
literally birth control is birth control, you guys. Like, hold
yeah,
up
exactly.
here. Like, I
Yeah,
understand. I understand. I understand. This is what blows my mind. I understand we're in a world where everyone just fucks all the time, and it's not back in the day where it was like really honored to, have like make love with someone, that's gone. That's out the window because again, it's perverted the world. You could call it what you want. You can call it empowerment. I think loving one person and having that intimacy with one person and keeping that private is the ultimate goal. That's just me
yeah.
personally. I know that that's not mainstream anymore. But it kind of blows my mind. Sorry, now I was just thinking about how perverted the world has gotten with the more access to it and where that all goes. I actually lost where I was going with that because then I started
Well,
thinking about how demonic and gross and perverted
well,
people
this demonic. If you want to get into it, it actually is demonic. You can. I'm going to go all crazy here for a second,
no, yes.
and but part of the reason I learned all this stuff was because in one of your episodes I talked about having a soul fragment, but I
Yeah,
thought I had, like, I was like, what is going on here? So I went to like a bunch of different
right.
deliverance ministers, and I went down this deep rabbit hole of learning all about deliverance, because going back to, we live in a spiritual world.
Yeah.
There's much more to what the eye can see. There's a
Yes.
spiritual world. Demons are basically trapped uh, souls on earth. They have nowhere to go because
Mm-hmm.
they descended from the giants who came from the fallen angels. So they,
Okay.
when they co-created with humans, this is in the Bible. They go more into it in the book of Enoch, which
Okay.
was taken out of the Bible. But that's where the giants came from, was when the angels, this is, if you look up Genesis 6:3, and they say the sons of God came into the women, or whatever it was. And these angels were who they worshipped as demigods. Like, when
Okay.
people don't realize, when we learn Greek and Roman mythology in school, and all those gods that they worship,
Mm-hmm.
those were the fallen angels. They actually
Yes.
did exist. They
Yeah.
try to tell us they didn't, but like, that's because they lie to us with a lot of, like, there's truth, and then there's what they falsified.
Yeah.
But okay, sorry, I'm getting off the topic here,
No,
but
it's okay.
that's the etymology of where they came from, is that the fallen angels had babies. They were the giants. They can't, their soul is stuck on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't have anywhere to go. Like, they're not of God. So they're stuck here roaming the earth looking for inhabitants.
I see. Okay. That makes sense.
That's what a demon is.
Okay.
You can, when you have sex with a random person, you can transfer, their demons can come into you.
Yeah.
You can
That's what
get
I'm
things
saying.
called, soul ties when you have sex with other people. Like, you know what I mean? There's like a whole thing, which is
100%.
why God tells you just to have like one partner. Um and like, but a lot of these Satan worshipers have all of these, like if you go into Freemasonry, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of their symbolism is all about sex. And like the Washington Monument, that phallic thing
Mm-hmm.
that we call a monument, that's Freemasonry. That is a phallus. It represents a penis. Like, you know what I mean?
Ooh.
Like, people don't realize that. But they get into that. And that's where, like, if
Yes.
you get into, like, you learn about Aleister Crowley and all those, like, people, they would do these sex acts and there would be demonic transfer, right? So there's a reason they do these things to push an
Sexualize
agenda,
everything. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not of God.
No.
I'm sorry, I went down
No, we
a
both, and that's why there's so much. That's why I was like kind of struggling with this whole thing. So I'm like, where do we start? There's so, as I was like thinking this morning, I was like, oh, and then this, and then don't forget to say this, and then that. And I'm like, I don't stop. Like, just let it roll because there's so many different areas. And again, like, it's hard. And going back to, I think, the point where it's like, it's good to know these things to be cognizant, sorry, of when you're being quote unquote brainwashed into repetitive messaging. And I think that's
Yep.
like what has got most people in entirety. And it doesn't matter what echo chamber you're in, what you're listening to. It's really trying to control people's mind by repeating messages. And I think that was one of the biggest things during the pandemic, that I realized that there was that repetitive messaging and it was being broadcasted everywhere. And then I realized that, like, oh, all news stations are owned by like two or three. And then you just start going down these, like you said, these rabbit holes where I feel like I was almost too consumed and super negative. And to the point, yeah, where it's like, even these days, like, just recently, because you shared with your spouse, like, one thing I struggle with is like anything that's medical or healing, I don't believe it. Like, I try not to. I'm just in that space of my life where I do understand. I have friends that have gotten cancer curing medicines, that they're still alive, and I understand that there are good medicines and there's good processes. But now I'm just feel like I've been so lied to that I just don't believe anything. And he's like, some stuff does heal, and I'm just like, I just one thing that I hate about the conspiracy side of it is being so open minded that I actually can't close my mind or make a decision on some things that are actually beneficial to the world and actually helping. Like, even when talking about parasite cleansing, I want to do it so bad, but there's this other part of me now that is just distrustful of everything. And it's like, but what if everyone was fed that and that actually keeps you further away from God? And you know what I mean? Like, I almost like,
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah.
struggling to get out of that. And I think I'm like 50%, but I'm still got this chokehold on some of these things because once you see it, it's hard not to recognize the pattern. But then also, I'm a person that just wants to make things make sense. And if something doesn't make sense, then I try to make it have reason. Right. So it's like
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
totally.
constantly
No,
in a
I get
war
it.
with
And you get so
myself.
much conflicting information.
Yes.
So back to what I was talking about, it just popped in my
Yes.
head. It's
Good.
called sex magic. That's what it's called.
Okay.
It's like they're
Interesting.
casting a spell, which if you and now remember
Makes
the Red
sense.
Hot Chili Peppers album Blood Sugar Sex Magic?
Yes. They do a lot. They said a lot of stuff in that Californication, right? And so, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of our bases here and leading up to this is that I think people lose creativity, and that leads to not being able to have an imagination when it comes to how things are. And going back to when I first dumped into this, it was the Hollywood thing and
Yeah.
how my mind didn't really understand before I got into this that absolutely Hollywood can paint things a certain way. They can take, and again, the Titanic is still now up to date for me because I've seen a lot of debunking information that logically also makes sense. You know what I mean? So this is where I've kind of been like, ooh, some of these things I've really taken hold of and made sure that I'm like, this is the number one conspiracy. And then now I'm like,
But you do have to admit that it's very convenient that they got rid of all the people that were against the Federal Reserve
see, people are
in
saying that
one
that's
fell
not
swoop. How
true.
convenient. And
But see,
also how
that's the thing.
convenient that they also had another ship that looked like the Titanic that they had taken out of commission like a year later.
Yes. And
And
so,
it
well,
said that maybe they used that. I mean, who knows? It's just convenient that the Federal Reserve happened after they got rid of all those annoying dissenters.
100%. So this is where I struggle, where I completely agree, and that has always been my argument. But
Yeah.
because I've broken out of my own personal algorithm, I'm now seeing different information. And for me, just sitting here being a Canadian stoner that knows none of this shit, has no nothing, I'm just like, who do I believe? Because there's other people that are saying there's absolutely no way that you could take all of the pieces of that other ship and switch it with the other. Like, there's like a
Yeah.
numbering system, right? So this is where I think we struggle. And I think this is what I was trying to say before, and I got into the pandemic talk, is not being an expert in something. We also can't say that, right? Like, I'm not us, but like me, I'm not educated on boats in a
Yeah.
fucking way. So if someone's saying, hey, this is how boats are made, so it's 400, 401. So there is all the parts on that second boat, that next boat, it was built, whatever the way it was built after. So there's no possible way that they could, because they'd have to switch everything on that boat because boats have serial numbers on all of their parts. So they would have to
Yeah.
literally change the entire boat for that to be true. Now, is that real or is that a bot? I don't
And
know
it's also
because
like
I don't know.
who gave the information? Who can you trust? Who can you
Exactly.
really trust at the end of the day?
And I think that's my point, is that this is where everyone struggles when it comes to theories, is that there's some that are fucking completely have come true. What are you talking about? We told you that the COVID vaccine wasn't as safe and effective. Now they're considering putting a black box warning on it, right? That's another one that I got tripped up on this week, is that the FDA says it was going to. No, they said there's discussions about it. So here's me confidently being like, you know what I mean? And now I'm
Yeah.
like eating my own foot because I'm like, fuck, it's getting, with AI, with the deep corruption, the censorship, it is getting hard. So I think for me, I've just been like willing to accept the information, but I'm not going to die for it in the comment sections. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like, there's a
Yeah.
handful of hills I will die on
And there's
now.
only so much time to fight with
Ah,
trolls.
who has time? And I am I being a troll? Like, I have to ask myself sometimes. I'm like, girl, why are you fighting with this person online? Like,
I
does
know it's
go on
hard.
your treadmill,
You
go
feel
read a,
someone make a dumb comment, and you're like,
right?
do I want to feed into this or just let it go?
Right. And
You know?
I'm always the one that I just always think I'm wrong. So then I struggle too, right? Especially during the pandemic. It's like, well, you're not a doctor. You're not this. And I'm like, no, but I've been told that something's safe and effective for fertility. And now I'm seeing the side effects of that I did not have informed consent for. So I'm just asking questions. Is this going to hurt my fertility? Because I'm already struggling. So if the conspiracy theory is true that it affects fertility, I want to make sure that I'm making the right decision for my future. That's a big decision to make, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And then it was like, you don't care about anybody, you're a grandma killer, you don't know anything, you don't know
Ugh,
science. And I was like, hold up though, like, isn't science to be questioned? Isn't that the
right.
whole antithesis of science? And that's why I never went into it, because there's too many questions and that hurts my brain.
Right.
So like,
But they really weren't questioning anything. They were just pushing an agenda.
and
And
that's
that's
one
the thing with
thing.
the medical system.
Yes.
I really do think that they are, and they, like most people can't help it, but they are their own cult because that's
Yes.
what they've been trained on. That's like, and if you think about it, like the more education you have is the more brainwashing and programming you have,
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
Because you're just learning one person's perception
Mhm.
of whatever that is to be true. Does it mean it's right? No.
And that's why you need continuing education at the minimum. You know what I mean? Like, I understand, like, some things you have to, like, I'm not going to go to someone that's not learned in a book how to do a brain surgery. Like, I'm just not, right? Like,
Right.
there's got to be some forms, but it's
Yeah.
the ones that hold that as the holy grail and won't ebb and flow, right? Like, we talk about injectors with Botox, for example. They will not acknowledge that there's risk, but it's like, babes, there's
I know.
actually a black box warning on this one. Like, fuck all of you for fighting me on this one, but there is that. So
It's
like,
crazy.
that's where
Well,
I
they've
kind of,
been brainwashed or they choose not to know. But think about the whole Rockefeller medical system.
totally, yeah.
Like, I think about someone like my grandma, talk about like if I told her vaccines were bad for you, she's been giving vaccines her whole life. She's 96.
Yeah.
She gave vaccines till the time she was in her late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And she grew up, like, she went to nursing school in the 40s, and she really, felt like she was doing something good, right?
Yes,
Like,
of course.
but who in the medical system who's been brought up that way was like, hey, should we look into Pasteur's experiments and see if maybe they were botched and if this ever actually really happened? Or,
Yes,
hey, should we read the actual ingredients? Or, you know what I mean? Like, no,
100%.
they just do what they're told,
Yeah.
and then they tell you that you should do what they tell you to do because they know.
Yeah.
But do they know? No, they know what they've been taught, which is
Yes.
their own version of brainwashing, which is kind of like being in a cult,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So then
Yes.
you have to, like, yes, if I needed surgery, absolutely, I'm going to have no choice than other to go see a doctor.
Of course.
But
Yes.
would I take nutrition advice from a doctor? Hell no. They don't take
Exactly.
one nutrition class.
No, no. And then to your point, that's just what we've always been told. Always just go to the doctor. And I'm not discrediting, like, people learn stuff and I'm far more than I do. However, this is where the evil part of the world comes in. And it's called greed. It's not money. It's
Yeah.
not fame. It's not any of that. It's fucking greed. Because you could be the
Yeah.
poorest person and a greedy person, a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, I was actually, when we were in Hawaii on our trip, that's the one thing that our guide said, Aka, that really stood out to me, was that their evil in the world is, I don't believe it's money, because you could do so much good with money. It's just another energy exchange. It's greed. And you can look at that at any sort of currency, right? Like energy. Some people are just so greedy with your energy. They want all of it, or you know what I mean? Like, and you have to
Yeah.
protect that, right? You have to protect your energy. You have to protect all of that. So I think that is where there's this because I think the cognitive dissonance come into like, we all know nurses, we all know doctors, and we know a lot of great people. And I don't
Yep.
believe that everyone signs up to go to med school and they're like, I'm going to fuck everyone and make them all sicker and take their money. Like, absolutely not. I think
Yeah.
most people go in there with the good intentions of helping people and they get put into this system. And just like any other system that's out there, usually if you speak out against it, you're ex-nayed. And majority
Yeah.
of human beings don't want to be ex-nayed, right? So then you'll sit there and you'll take some things and you'll be like, okay, maybe I don't align with that, but I'm getting this education. But after years of repetitive messaging that you're essentially know everything and all of that, you kind of develop this complex and an ego within those systems that you're not wrong. And if you have all this cognitive
Hmm.
dissonance because you've paid all this money, this is always how it's been, your grandparents went to medical school, like, and no one ever questioned it, then you're not going to question it. But then if you get fucked up in that said system, whether you're a nurse that got pushed out during COVID for doing no harm, which is what you're supposed to be doing, or someone that was just like, hey, I have fertility issues and like anything I add to my body right now is stressing me out. It's not just vaccines, like literally the air I'm breathing. So that doesn't really make me anti
Yeah.
vax. It just makes me want to have questions. And then I got pissed off because then people started saying that, right? But then it's like, to your point, it's like there's education to do stuff, but there's this other messaging that sometimes schooling brings where it's like you're above everybody because you're
Yeah.
educated and there's no way
Yeah.
that you can be wrong. And but then back to the thing, isn't the antithesis of science questioning everything? So like I
Right.
have respect for the doctors that came out that were like, even Robert Malone was like, yo, I made this and we should be doing this. And people are
Right.
like, you're a fucking conspiracy theorist. And it's like, but he invented it. Like,
I know. And remember the guy, what was his name? He used to work for Pfizer and was like their VP. And he's like, and he was
don't
speaking out
take it.
against, I'm surprised he's still alive, actually. I'm surprised they
100%.
haven't offed him,
I think if they can make you
Um,
a fool, they're not going to off you, right? Because once they can label you a wingnut, let's say like Alex Jones, for example, most people are not going to then listen to anything, just like conspiracy theorists, when you say things like Alex Jones, Russell Brand, Tim Pool, Candace Owens, like, where there's a whole other conspiracy that those guys are all, like, here's the newest conspiracy theory I fell down. Now that everyone's on to mainstream media's bullshit, they just took the heads of them and put them out to independents, but they're still like Tucker, Candace, all of those are still running narratives. They're
controlled
just
opposition.
controlled opposition, whether right or wrong, I don't know, but Candace gets me distracted. So
Yeah.
I will say
She
that
says
she is
great
good at
things.
that. She says a
Yeah.
lot of shit. Now, has some stuff come true? Sure. Has some not? Sure. But again, don't people that are like standing Candace or anybody like that, even Charlie Kirk, think he's an amazing guy. But I'm not going to stand and say he was perfect. All of that is very cult like mentality, and it's been pushed through to you through this messaging on social media. That's how I
Yeah.
feel,
Well, they
right?
put people in places for a reason. And
Exactly.
I do believe that most of the people you mentioned are controlled opposition, but you have to go back to the fact that when you go back to realizing, I also believe and we can go down this rabbit hole in a second, we're in what's called Satan's little season.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Everything's run by Satan, but God's in control. But my point is, they believe in what's called Hegelian dialect, which
Okay.
means out of chaos comes order. They control both sides. The outcome is the same. The same with politics. It's the same beast, two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Democrat, Republican, whatever, they still control each person.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, do we have an opportunity to vote? Sure. Do they pick the candidates that we can vote for? Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I believe maybe at the lower levels, maybe some people may get in that like
Yes.
might actually be real people. Who knows? At the highest level, they are chosen. Every single one of the presidents we've ever had here in the US have all been Freemasons.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to get into was, once you realize how to spot their symbolism, you're less likely to fall prone to believing their bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
And this goes to everything, right? False
Yep.
flags, all the things. So about 3 years ago, I got this thing in the mail from Turning Point with Charlie Kirk. And so this is where I go back to, if you guys like, you should, I recommend everyone baseline get an understanding of Freemason symbolism, because
Yes.
it'll help you understand who's in the club and who's trying to play you.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Hollywood, they're always doing this.
Yeah.
It's the one eye, the all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
It's this that stands
Yeah.
for 666. Yeah, don't tell. Secret Society, Freemasonry, Illuminati, all this stuff, right?
Yeah. And Walt
When
Disney,
you
he
see
was a part of that, wasn't he?
who?
Walt Disney.
Oh yeah, He was a Rosicrucian. He was high up. Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. When you look at the pictures of the presidents, like our past presidents, George Washington, they've got their hand in
Mhm.
their like in their suit or whatever,
Yep.
covered up by the suit. Like all of them. Like when you look at the guy, the picture, who's the guy that shot Lincoln? What was his name? Anyway, that guy, I'm having a blank. Notice his pose in his
Mhm.
pictures. He's in the club. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like it's like, okay, what kind of bullshit were they playing there?
Yep.
Who knows?
Yep.
But my point is they're all in the club.
Yes.
And then when you can recognize the symbolism, you're less likely to take advantage of like this
Mhm.
symbol that Trump makes literally in like every single speech. I've seen Candace, she's always doing this. In fact, she says in one of her speeches, I'm a Mason. I don't know if you've seen
I've
that
seen
one.
that. Yeah, she was a Mason of Turning Point USA.
Yeah, so that's disclosure, right? But about 3 years ago, and I took a picture of it. It's on my phone. I got a picture from Turning Point USA, and Charlie Kirk was doing this in the promo, and I was like, oh, thanks for letting me know who you are, and that's why. And actually, Erica Kirk, I spotted she has a G
Yeah.
on her tattooed on her hand.
Yeah.
She is not a Christian. She's a fake Christian. G
Interesting.
is a Freemason symbol. I believe that the G stands for what is it called? I was asking my friend Tyler. Just I was like, what do you think the G? Tyler from Fittest Flat Earther. He's a friend of mine.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Is he Canadian? Why do I feel like he's
He's
Canadian?
not, but
Was he?
he
Oh,
is.
there's another one that's talking about conspiracies that's Canadian.
He said. He said. I think. He said. I used to think Gilgamesh, which I used to think too, like
Mm-hmm.
Epic of Gilgamesh. But he said, but I think it's G of Gadriel, another name used for Lucifer in the Book of Enoch.
Interesting. And
But
see,
notice when you start seeing the G
yeah,
like in the ring that Erica Kirk wears, and the G in the and there's other symbols too, but like that way at least you know they're in the club. This and the Masons have a thing called Masonic theater, right?
okay,
They like
yep,
to act out their rituals. So
yes,
I think a lot of these false flags are then doing rituals and energy harvesting exercises.
yes,
But a lot of times you'll see the news reports and it'll be like, oh, how convenient. It was 33 people killed.
yeah,
Oh, that's a number, right? That's a
yeah,
Freemason number. The
33, yeah,
threes
yeah.
represent a third of the angels that fell from heaven. Most people don't realize what that is. Or
Okay,
6 6 is always used all the time, right? Like 33, 6 6. Tucker Carlson, notice he wears a red Kabbalah bracelet, right? So
interesting.
it's like, I used to love Tucker Carlson,
Well, this
right?
is
This
a
is
thing
my
that upsets
husband.
you, right? Is because they start saying things that are quote unquote your side. And that's where I got trapped after the pandemic of all the people validating, yeah, this is fucked up. But then all of a sudden they started selling me shit that was like the antidote to what, and I was like, no, I feel like the
And
same
then
thing.
you don't
Like,
know what to trust or who to trust.
exactly.
Like
That's why
you
I
said
think
with the
just
parasite cleansing,
exactly.
like even with fenbendazole, I expelled a ton of parasites off that, and I actually felt like it was very effective. But then I was like, can I trust a company like Merck,
Yes.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
So
And same with
you can't
ivermectin too, right? Like there's some crazy shit about Bill Gates. Now, did it start with him? No. But then we gets his sticky little fingers on it. You're just like, but then at what point do you have to stop at some point, right? And that's what my point is. It's like good to know this stuff, is good to see it so that you're not getting brainwashed. I think that's the whole idea, is to learn how to be sovereign, right? And not have any sort of celebrity, any sort of like false god, right? Like anything like
Yep,
that directing you. And all of these things I truly believe is very like quote unquote antichrist, because it is taking you away from quote unquote God's word. And I just don't
yeah.
understand where in the Bible so far. Again, I'm very learning. So hit me up
Me
in the
too,
comments
sister.
section, but please tell me where anything that he has said or anything that's in the Bible or his teachings of how we should live is bad, outside of there is interpretations about being gay. But outside of that, where, that's just my question, like why do we think it's so evil when I've yet to see anything that has been truly negative? I have seen religions and individuals, especially cult leaders, take advantage of God's word and
Sure.
used it incorrectly, whether that's in churches, like we talked about, where people have church hurt, you know,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
they've gone to spirituality because, like as we discussed, I was as atheist. Like, there's no God. This doesn't make sense. Why would there be a world where there's pain, hurt? Like, I was very in the side of victim mentality and not understanding what those bad things learn as lessons, as virtues. I didn't
Yeah.
have any sort of understanding, and I still don't know. But I have this really cool belief now, just from the things that I've learned, that we are souls and we come here to earth to learn to, and then we evolve over time to a point where we're so enlightened and we don't have to come back to earth anymore because we've learned all lessons. Now we can then be somewhat like of a guide, a spirit guide to other people through their trials and tribulations here on earth. That's, kind of what I think. So I think back, like I think to that, okay, what am I coming here to learn? When people
Yeah.
say, oh, I'm so sorry you went through that, I am too. But I can't control that. I can't control that I had a bunch of miscarriages, that I have fertility issues. I can't control, didn't work out with my first husband. I can't control that, like, the second love of my life that I thought I was going to marry passed away. Like, I can't do all those things, right? And it's all heavy things. But if you turn around and go, I'm a soul here learning human experiences and lessons to become more enlightened so then I can help others and we can just try to make this world a better place by being better people, like, isn't that the evolution we should be going for? And all these distractions, Hollywood, work, social standards, all of that shit is just distracting us from the word of God, because I've never seen anything negative so far. Like, so far I've never seen anything that people have learned how he wants them to live has been a bad thing,
Yeah,
right? So how can
absolutely
you
not.
not see
And it's
that
a guide.
Satan's
It
trying to
is.
pull you away from that, right?
Yeah, no, everything. I do believe everything in our culture is like the goal is to separate us from God
Yes.
and try to teach and try to make us think He doesn't exist. I think
Yes.
that's like literally down to the shape of the earth. I do not believe that we are on a spinning water ball globe. Like, I do not. Just based, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
don't even think we're real, man. I think we're all holograms and we're just like AI essentially. And we're just like somewhere in the matrix where we're actually plugged into something somewhere else and we're just a floating brain. Like, that's where I'm at. No, I'm just kidding. But it does pull everybody away, right? And then everything that we've seen. And then there's false gods too, where I think a lot of churches developed and a lot of different religions stemmed.
yeah,
It wasn't the learning of God anymore. It was like, wow, I could take these words and make people believe in it because it's such a strong faith, and then I'm going to manipulate them. Because I don't believe for a second, I'm not trying to shade on like some Mormon, but there's some cultures that give all of their money to these churches, to these religions, so that they can go on to the next way. And
yeah,
I struggle to believe that by me giving money to a church outside of like, I appreciate you and I want you to keep running because I like this place. Why are there thousands and thousands, billions of dollars being put through religion stuff? To me, it's a
oh
tax
yeah,
write-off. Scientology is one of them, right? To
yeah,
be able to be greedy. And that where it comes back, where greed is the problem. Religion and relationship with God can be beautiful, but I feel like 80% of the world has taken advantage of that and
oh,
done that for
100%.
greed. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's turned so many people away from God because they
Exactly.
like look at Catholicism. I mean, I actually do think the Catholic Church really runs all kinds of things and is
Absolutely.
laundering so much money and is tied in with, like there's a lot. But, and
Exactly.
it's not just them. Like look at the Jesuits. So like a lot of times what people will do is they actually could be a different flavor of Satanism, but they hide behind a quote unquote sect of Christianity, which I think is what the Jesuits are and the Knights of Templar and Catholic Church gets roped into that. And there's so much of and Mormonism. I mean,
Yep.
I read this article the other day that Joseph Smith was a Freemason, and then like the whole goal was to kind of like what they did when they wrote the other book was like basically to discredit Jesus, right? So it's like
Yes.
it's really hard to know like how do you like no wonder so many people are so distrustful,
Oh,
right? Like
100%. And
you
so like
know
Freemasons are like completely antichrist. Is that the idea?
free so
Like, just for those that don't know,
Freemasonry
right?
at
Like,
the
I just feel I feel like I
let's go
learned
with
shit.
Freemasonry.
Yeah, because I feel like, again, like this is where I struggle with, is because I learned something at a height where I do believe that I was being pushed down information. So now I'm at that point where I'm like, what do I
Yeah,
know is true? So what, and again, I'm not saying it at the beginning of the show. I'm just talking opinions and what I know. So I don't know what's true. But I
yeah.
like to know what other people have learned and gathered too with what that is.
So here's my understanding of Freemasonry based on my
Yeah.
research and my own personal experience. And I will say, you or probably someone you know knows a quote unquote Freemason
Oh, 100%.
because their outward appearance is like it's a local club that does like charity work, right? Like it's a fraternal organization. My great great grandparents were Freemasons. They were also Baptists, but they were in the Freemason church. Like when I went and cleaned out my great grandma's apartment, I found these like cards from the Eastern Star, women of the Eastern Star, the blah blah blah, to my great grandma when she passed, and all the things, right?
Yeah.
And I actually did a lot of curse breaking prayers to knock off Freemasonry off of me when I went through all my deliverance stuff. Because here's what people don't realize, and I'll go back to like what is it?
Yes.
Um, it can appear very harmless. Like, let's say if you want to join a local lodge or become a low level Freemason,
Mm-hmm.
but you will inadvertently do a lot of what is it, like you'll sign on to doing things or making saying oaths
Mm-hmm.
that will then go down your bloodline.
Okay.
Basically you're basically casting curses on your bloodline, right, is what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Like
That makes
you're
sense.
making legal contracts which you don't even realize you're making.
Mm-hmm.
So Freemasonry, to think about what it is, they get their name, like masonry, from King Solomon, who built like a big temple in the Old Testament, I believe, and it was kind of like the Masonic order. And in that temple, he let all of like the Babylonian religions worship whatever gods they wanted, and yada yada yada. And then Freemasonry kind of stemmed from that. That's why they have like the Mason, Masonic, like Master Mason, like symbolism and blah blah
Different
blah.
levels.
Yeah, but at its like kind of form is it's a secret society.
Okay.
Supposedly they got a lot of their esoteric knowledge from the fallen angels in the book of Enoch. That's what it says.
Okay.
And as a secret society, it was very much underground.
Mm.
But here's the thing: is like if you decided to be a Freemason and join a local lodge, you're going to be a low level Freemason. They never tell you, oh, we worship Lucifer.
Mm.
They don't tell you that until you're a 33rd degree Mason or
Right.
higher.
Right. So you go up the
And you'll
levels.
see it roped in. Like I
Yeah.
see license plates all the time. They're like Fraternal Order of Police, and it'll have like a G on it. They probably don't even know what the G means. They probably tell them something different. They have like a friend of mine. I went to her house, and her husband was thinking about joining the local lodge, and she showed me their Bible, and it was like really interesting because they mixed a lot of weird shit in with like some biblical stuff. You know what I mean? It was really weird. But at the highest level, they are worshiping Lucifer, who's the fallen angel,
Mm.
right? So this is kind of where this goes back to.
God.
He that was like the thing that started was like a big rebellion in heaven, and then the angels were cast down out here under earth, mated with, this was like before the flood.
Yeah.
Mated with the women, had babies. That's where the giants come from.
I see.
They were corrupting the DNA. Like they were doing all kinds of stuff with animals. Like, if you go to Italy and you'll like look at all this Roman architecture and you'll be like, that's interesting. Why did they mix a horse with a man? This statue is half horse, half man. They were making, what is is it called chimea? Like all these hybrids, and they were doing all kinds of really evil stuff. And that's why God brought the flood. Somehow, I don't think everybody got wiped out, because the 13 bloodline families of like the Illuminati trace their roots back to the fallen angels.
Interesting.
I know I'm going deep here.
No,
but
bring us down here. Let's go.
But Freemasonry is like the currency of all this stuff, right? Like our founding fathers, when they said that our nation was built on God, I'm pretty sure they didn't mean our God. They meant because they were all Freemasons. And if you go into Washington, D.C., you can see all of the Freemason symbolism. Like I said, the Washington Monument, that phallus, that's Freemasonry. And so that it is like a secret club, but they don't tell you until you get to the highest level who their god is, and it is Lucifer. But he calls him the god of light. So all these people are
thinking that
they think that's their god, and that's the right one, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're in this kind of spiritual battle between God and Lucifer, and he's trying to bring people to his side. And Freemasonry is like one of the ways, and it's intricately tied into the Kabbalah, which is like kind of quote unquote Jewish mysticism. There's a lot of things here, but I'd say like that's the main thing. And that's why if you can recognize their symbolism, at least you know when you're being like messed with and lied to, and you know who's in that club, which is most people.
Yes.
They're in the club.
Especially if you said like you don't know.
Religions together, all those pagan religions. Like, let's look at the Statue of Liberty. That's a crown, the crown she wears. That's Prometheus, a sun god, right?
Okay.
Have you noticed the Statue of Liberty is holding an apple? What's that about? Like the apple from Genesis, the book of Genesis, Eve who ate the apple. But this ties into what I was saying. I'm going deep, deep. Satan's little season theory. Why does the Statue of Liberty have chains that are broken at her feet? So that's why a lot of people say the Statue of Liberty is really a statue of Lucifer. because
Interesting.
there's actually a quote in the Bible about let's see if I can find it. I did this so I had like references in the book of Revelation, but basically about the binding of Satan in chains.
Mm,
And then they
interesting.
say that there will be a time after Christ's millennial reign that Satan will be let out for a little season.
Interesting.
And that's why I believe that we're actually in what's called Satan's little season and we're further out in the timeline. And I believe that our nation was created by a bunch of Freemasons who had been under in hiding during Christ's millennial reign because he didn't let that stuff happen.
Yep.
And they came out of the woodwork when it was we're in Satan's little season. And that's who I think started our nation here, America. And the God that we say that we're worshiping was not the one that we think. It actually was Lucifer. And I actually do think that the Statue of Liberty was made in his honor, because this is another rabbit hole you can go down.
Interesting.
There's another painting in, I think it's in Belgium, and not a painting, excuse me, statue by the
Yep.
same, I think it's the same guy that did our Statue of Liberty. Um, and I think it's called, I'll have to Google this, Lucifer de Liege or something like that. But the
Interesting.
point is, this statue is a statue of Lucifer, and it looks just literally just like the Statue of Liberty.
So they just put like a couple of things around it to make it look like more New York or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, I mean, it literally looks so, and they've worked in their cult mysticism,
mm-hmm.
worship of other gods with the Prometheus crown. That
Right.
if you Google Prometheus,
Yep.
or is it Mithras? That's another one. Uh, that they're wearing the crown. So anyway, we've been deceived, is my point, and this is one of my
100%.
many deep rabbit holes. But this is why I trust nothing, and I pledge my allegiance to God only.
100%.
And like the deeper I've gone into it, that's why I'm like, I like God's God and Jesus, the only thing I trust. Everything else verify, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
But imagine if I told my husband that I thought the Statue of Liberty was actually a statue of Lucifer. He would lose his mind. Like, we can't talk about these things, right? Like, we cannot, like, maybe
But
I
I
have a
think
couple
sometimes
margaritas and he'll be like, holy shit, what did she just say? Um
I think we need that though, right? Like I think we need all of it. I think like and I'm the same way. Like I'm definitely the more open mind to the world being absolutely corrupt and fucked where he's just like I will murder if I know that that's true. So I just don't want to go to that level because it's like so like I get it and I think we need that balance. I think we need people like us that are just like wait, this doesn't look right and we're recognizing patterns. Like a lot of it is pattern recognition. However, sometimes things just have patterns and they're not explainable, right? But I
yeah,
think as analytical people, you want to explain it. So if something fits nicely, that pattern recognition, it clicks, you're like, makes sense. But being
yeah,
open to that, maybe that doesn't make sense too, right? And I think that's where I've been, where I was like, oh, unaware of everything. Then I opened my mind during the pandemic of like, maybe not everything as it seems. That blew up. And it's been 5 years of like, I'd say it was 4 years of being afraid of everything, super depressed. What's the point in the world? Why am I doing all this? Because why? We're all going to end up sick and dying of cancer. There's this elitist thing against us, da 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 da. But then again, it comes back to God and spirit.
yeah,
Why are we here? Is my like you know how you meet people and you're like, wow, you're an old soul. Like you might be 22, but you sound like you're 35. I feel like that
hmm,
means because you are in fact an old soul just on this new timeline, or maybe you're young. There's some people
yeah,
I'm like, oh, you're just a baby soul. You're so sweet, right? And then there's some people that I meet that I think I'm like, ah, girl, you've definitely been here and are far more enlightened to the information, right? And then so then you just look like I look up to people like you, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to learn more, but then I want to teach other people too to just open your mind. I'm not
yeah,
saying jump online and believe everything Alex Jones says. I am not saying that. What I am saying is being open to things that you might know that might not be fact, or maybe things have changed, right? Like I'll take COVID for example. When
yeah,
this first happened, I would say 70% of people thought it was going to wipe out the entire planet, right? Like people that
yeah.
like
It
there
was
was
all
a time
kind of
where I think that a lot of people were conspiracy theorists thinking that this one thing was going to take everybody out. Like to me, that was the conspiracy theory. Like you think this one flu is going to wipe everybody out? When in the history, besides back in the day, did that has that ever happened with like where we're at now? You know, like
Yeah.
modern
Yeah.
world is not like that. It doesn't wipe us out. We're stronger, we're better, we're more resilient, we're more connected than ever, right?
But they
um
wanted us to believe that, and our
exactly,
government, and so is yours, all of them are very good at mind control and brainwashing, right?
exactly,
Like the
exactly.
CIA, they use MK Ultra on the regular, right? They just did it in
100%.
like they just did it in mass, like they did it in mass for
Yeah.
us with
Yes.
COVID, you know.
Yeah.
But they've been testing out their mind control techniques for a very long time, and usually fear is the way to get people to do stuff that they want,
100%.
like inject themselves with a shot that hasn't been tested that can help carry out their depopulation plans and also their plans to control us
Hmm.
through the use of graphene
Fear.
oxide that can
Or
link
that
with
too.
like cell phone towers, right?
Yeah.
Like cell phone towers aren't for aren't for phones. Like we didn't need 5G. Like 4G worked fine.
Yeah.
But most people don't realize that those cell phone towers are classified as a weapons, like a direct energy weapons system. I
Exactly.
know for a fact they use them to control our weather, right? Like you
Yeah.
can, so it's like they will use whatever they can to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
That's what they're trained on.
Yes, and they have
No,
these avenues, right? And that's where we seen during COVID. It was like every single news media was saying the same repetitive thing,
the script.
nonstop, a very repetitive script. And you're like, okay, maybe I could go to Fox News to see something different than CNN. No, you couldn't. It well, like, yes, there's a varying degree to make you feel like you have a little bit of choice, but you really don't. And that's why I just want people to understand is that constantly messaging. Like some people will look at people that get involved in like MLMs and cults and be like, how did you not know? Like, how did you get to the point where you drank Kool-Aid? And again, this
Yeah,
stuff doesn't happen. It's not like everyone got together and like, let's drink Kool-Aid. It's because someone was fearful of something and vulnerable, and then someone else took advantage of that, right?
yeah,
And then
it
they
happens
they
all the
still
time.
they remove you from people and people in your family. They remove you from anybody that will help you question that. Then they start repetitive messaging you, and then they beat you down, and then that's all you have in your brain. Like I don't think it's very far off. Or exactly. So it's just like, again, when we look at things, they have very many different ways of controlling people and controlling the narrative. And so once you can identify that, as soon as I see something being repetitive across all social medias, across all sides, I'm like, oof. This is why are we all collectively talking about this now? Epstein files have been important. Why do they keep getting flundering up at certain times? And again, I feel like it was the same thing. It was like that's what I was trying to get to with the Epstein files, and it originally started. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but they're definitely using it to their advantage to put
Yeah,
information out and pull it back when they're trying to do something else. And the biggest one that happened when Epstein was going through his actual case is when COVID numbers were coming out and all
yeah,
that kind of stuff was coming out. And they were just like, everyone was so busy fighting about the Epstein files that a lot of people were not paying attention over here, right? So, as much as I
it's a fraction. That's the
exactly.
distraction. That's what they do.
Exactly. And then the minute
Yep.
you start
No, this
question
could be a total psyop that they use to
yes.
their advantage.
Exactly. And like I said, some things could be, and that's where I just want people to understand is that natural things can happen. Of course, I'm not saying that it can't. Okay. But there's also another point where at what point does it become just taking advantage of a situation or creating the problem and then giving the solution? That's where I don't understand where people can understand government are
Which is
corrupt.
Hegelian dialect,
There you
which is
go.
what the Satanists practice,
See?
aka the Luciferians, aka the Freemasons that run the world.
And the one that I wanted to bring up too is that we've talked about on the show, and the biggest one that I wanted to talk about that was prominent was Project Bluebeam,
Uh,
and we've talked about Project Bluebeam on the show before years ago with Haley actually, and she loved this one because she loves aliens. But then when we found out it's not just strictly about aliens, it's about like one world, one control, one everyone following one religion, and it's based in Antichrist. And this actually
yeah,
came from
yeah,
in 1996. I believe his name was Serge Monsat. He's out of Quebec, I believe, and he's actually self-published a lot of books about this. I believe he died. I can't even remember when he died. Was it too long after? I don't believe. But he's no longer here. But there is published work of him talking about Project Bluebeam. And the thing about that now is when you think about where they are with AI, and then you think about the sphere down in Vegas, and you think about how many times they've tried to make aliens happen. Like, wasn't there one where they were like running around the mall in the States? Was that in Florida? Why does everything happen in
that was in
Florida?
Miami, believe it or not.
Okay, it was. And like, and I'm
So
not
much
saying that
crazy shit that happens down here.
it
Those
does.
are very corrupt, though. So when stuff
That's
happens,
fair.
I'm always
Well, I
like,
mean,
surprise.
you guys got Disneyland. I'm sorry. That's just like the number one. Like, if we really want to put my Tim hat on, like Disneyland to me is the source of all Freemasonry, all the corruption, all that kind of stuff. And there was one other point that I wanted to get back to people when they start looking into this stuff again. You can just look at this for entertainment. People read fucking fiction books all the time. Why can't
Truth
people
is
just look at
stranger than
this?
fiction, though.
You know what I'm saying? But still, even then, even if you just read it just for the point of fiction, you know what I mean? Like, why? I that's what I kind of dived in. Like, what are people thinking, and how did they get there? Instead of being like, oh, that's a crackpot. I'm like, no, but why? And maybe they are because there's a lot of crackpots. Like, I'm sorry, there's some people that think Gypsy Road Blanchard is amazing and she should be famous when I believe she manipulated her mom, she manipulated her boyfriend, she's a murderer, and I don't believe there was Munchausen by proxy in that situation personally, you know. But like the internet has told us we must look up at Gypsy Rose, you know what I mean? Why? Like glorify a murderer? To
Yeah.
glorify mental health? Like, anyways, so being like, just because you don't believe something doesn't mean other people don't. Right. So
Right.
even if you're
Right.
quote unquote a Satanist, but you don't believe in sacrifice and doing these things for Moloch and all that, great. But there's extremists that believe in that do. And you're not calling it out and disengaging it and saying that's not what Satanists do, is hurting it. So like being open that even like Christians, you need to be open that there has
Yeah.
people that have taken over your religion and have hurt people and pushed people away from it. And if you're not
Oh,
calling
for
that
sure.
out, you're a problem.
What bothers me is like, and this is being a Christian truther, is that they really don't. I don't know any churches that actually preach what I think is going on right
Yeah.
now. They don't
Yep.
talk about so many things. It's just like everything's watered down. And
Mhm.
for me, it's really hard because I actually do believe we're in a different timeline and a view of eschatology than like what every church preaches. So,
Yeah.
um, you know what I mean? And there's a level of just, I think, brainwashing that's happened. That's not their fault. It's been in place for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think most churches wouldn't even be open to like learning it. You know what I mean? Like cognitive dissonance would set in, and that's when you think about like most Christian churches believe in. I think it's called dispensationalists, which is like in my mind ties into Zionism, which was all, I believe all of this was planted for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
which actually does, in my opinion, tie into potential Project Bluebeam because
Yeah.
I believe they are grooming us to um,
Digital ID.
that all of the things. I think they're grooming us to fall for something in a big way.
And that's what Project Bluebeam is, right? Where there's going to be
Yeah,
an alien takeover. It's going to be, and again, and where people think we're crazy, but they did that with the pandemic. How much can we push if we take control of all the information? We're making fun of anybody dissenting. We're calling them conspiracy theorists. We're saying they're crazy. We're ostracizing them. We're showing them what it looks like to go against the mainstream media.
yeah,
That is what COVID felt like during the pandemic, was
yeah,
what is going to happen if you just question, if you talk against this, we're going to rip you apart of everything. And now I think
yeah.
it put the fear in some people, but I think it also put some boldness in a lot of people. And that's where I got bold and I was like, I don't know about that. Like,
Yeah, and good for you for using
and
your brain and
yeah,
questioning.
and they're going to
I
do
mean,
it again. And this is where I do believe that they will do this again. Now, is it
yeah,
now? I
well, they've
don't
been
know.
grooming. They've been
Exactly.
planting the seeds. I know I've seen the US government they were doing a bunch of stuff around aliens
Mm-hmm.
and like they were talking about it in
Mm-hmm.
Congress. And it's like why now?
Yeah.
Right? And then
Yep.
there was a bunch of stuff on the news.
Mm-hmm. All the
When you get
drone
back to knowing
sightings.
yeah, it's all controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Why was Tucker Carlson talking about aliens?
Yep.
Right? You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, why is everyone talking about aliens now? We know they have the technology
Mm-hmm.
to do holograms in mass,
We've
right?
seen it.
I think they've also been building up all this stuff with the Antichrist and
Mm-hmm.
Israel and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And I think what, in my opinion, is that they're going to try to deceive Christians
Mm-hmm.
into believe something that is not true.
Mm-hmm. I
um
could see that.
like and I put this in my notes and this gets into deep biblical stuff, but it supports my theory that we're in what's called Satan's little season, aka we're really further down the timeline than what we thought. That I believe Jesus already had his millennial reign. It was actually what was when we called was the dark ages was actually the light ages, when I believe he actually did reign. And all these buildings that they, supposedly during the middle ages they had like horse and carriage and like no electricity, and all these massive
Things
ornate
got built.
cathedrals and all this technology existed, but yet doesn't exist now. You know what I mean? Like, and then this ties into to people who know about and have researched Tartaria and the mud floods. And there's just a lot of our history that's been covered up. And I believe it's been covered up for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe they are setting us up to fall into a large deception. It could be aliens, it could be some kind of
Return of Christ.
yeah, I feel like they might try to bring on a fake Jesus and
Mm-hmm.
have everyone believe that that's Jesus
That's him
coming back.
coming back. Yep.
Yeah, when it's really not.
Yep.
And the book of Revelations actually does say in the very end times you'll have Gog and Magog, and they'll come against the camp of saints.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a different. If you believe in that timeline, it's kind of, it sounds like it'll almost be like a world war.
Yep.
Right. But if you believed in the other theory that a third temple must be built and blah blah blah, and it has to happen in Israel, I believe that a lot of that was planted for a reason. I don't know exactly what it was, some kind of new world order.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that whatever they show us is going to be a deception, and you need to have your discernment in place.
Yeah.
Because we know the government has technology to do holograms. It could be
Mm-hmm.
aliens. It could be whatever it is they show us. Don't believe what's in your eye, like in front of you, because if they have the technology to manipulate our weather, then of course they have the technology and to eliminate cities with direct energy weapons and to
100%.
easily make people die of a heart attack remotely or a
Mm-hmm.
stroke with their own technology, which is how they make lots of people die when they're. That's what Andrew Breitbart. That's what they did to him supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had some juicy stuff on Hillary Clinton, and then the next thing you know, he dies that he was going to leak on his site, and the next thing you know, he dies of a heart attack. How
Isn't
convenient.
that how? And that's where I'm at, where it's just like, at what point? My question would be, at what point does it become a coincidence? Is there some corroboration going on here? And if there's not, can we at least at the minimum admit that they take advantage of these situations? For example, crisis actors. Now, this is where I sit on a lot of
Yes,
things, where I believe that bad things happen, right? I
100%.
also believe that the media is just like another TV show, and that they have hired actors to go in there to then paint the narrative of what that sounds like. For example, this might piss people off, but listen just for 1 second. I believe there was a shooting at Bondi Beach. I'm not saying there's not. There is mass evidence that there was. However, some of the people that they interviewed have been seen in other places before. Secondly, there was a guy there that got treated by a nurse, but he was full of blood with like bandage on his head. Then when you see a picture of him a couple days later, there's no scar. So while I believe that there are crises absolutely that happen, whether they're planned or not, and I'm not saying specifically Bondi Beach was planned or whatever, I'm just saying these situations can happen from crazy people that could just be doing it on their own. They could be MK Ultra'd and pushed online in certain areas to do this.
Yeah.
And that's specifically talking about the trans shooters. I think that people get in touch with vulnerable people. They manipulate them to thinking these things. Those things actually happen. And then now the government now gets to come in and take another sort of form of control to contain for safety and to contain fear. Right. So does those shootings happen? Absolutely, they do. But I question what happened to the shooter. It's same with the whole Charlie Kirk situation, a lot of the school shootings. I believe maybe I'm just crazy and I don't want to believe that there's just that many evil people in the world that just wake up and they're evil. I believe that they are coerced, or they're manipulated, or they're vulnerable, or they truly believe they're doing a good thing. Like we see that with cults and all of that. And I think they've gotten into these people to make them do that, or when a situation happens, take advantage of it, right? Like the BLM fights, all of that. Like there's a lot of proof that that was funded by people to exacerbate it. Now, does that mean every single person in the BLM fights were hired? Absolutely not. But the people that are getting caught on TV, the people that are getting interviewed, and all of that, you kind of have to wonder, are they paid actors? Because we actually know that, like, in front of the Diddy case, his team had hired people to wear shirts outside that said "Free Diddy" for $20 an hour. Just to sit, you know what I'm saying? So like you have to kind of wonder sometimes. Yes, things happen. And this is where people get upset. Oh, were you saying that child school shooting didn't happen? No, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. I said I'd be curious to know more about that person, who they're involved in, what were the online discords. You know what I mean? And then I would also question, why are we putting a lot of this on the news? How are we getting these angles? How all of a sudden we have these people coming out of nowhere? Like you got to question that sometimes. It can't just all fall perfectly, right? So that's where I'm at with it, where we've seen crisis actors. If you watch The Fall of the Ball, you know exactly what I'm fucking talking about.
Yeah.
She shows you the crisis actors that have been
Mhm.
in, what was it, the Boston bombing and was also part of another one. I couldn't remember where it was, where it's the same exact fucking person. So a
Yep.
crisis happened. All of a sudden
Totally.
they're there. Okay, why? Isn't that weird to
Yeah.
people? Like, wouldn't you be questioning, like, oh my God, how did you survive 2 marathon bombings? That's
Uh-huh.
crazy.
And you have to wonder why they plan these things. And yes, I'm
Totally.
sure some people do get
Control.
killed.
Oh,
Yeah. And then
100%.
but like, is it above these people to kill people? No, of course it's
No,
not. They kill
they
people every day. They don't care.
they don't care. They
And
don't
they
view
think of us
humans
like they don't think
ants.
of us like humans. They think of themselves as above us,
Yeah,
people, you know.
exactly.
They think of us like cattle. But
Yes.
you have to wonder. I think there's lots of different reasons. I think it's a collective energy harvesting ritual.
Yes.
Like some people call it loosh,
Okay. Okay.
but they do collect energy. Think of all the energy that's poured out when you see these kids on school campuses get
Mm-hmm.
killed, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and even this would upset a lot of people. And who's to know? Who knows if this is real or not?
Yeah.
There were a lot of people that denied what was the Sandy Hook, but
Yes, that's Alex Jones. Yeah.
I saw pictures of like the girls that supposedly died. I saw pictures of them grown up. Like the other day, someone's like, here they are. They all still hang out. You know what I mean? Like a
Yes.
lot. So it's like, it's hard to know what to
It's hard to
believe.
know.
But
Yeah.
I think the only thing you can believe is that what they tell you is not true.
Yes, or what they're doing is in for your safety, but really to your point, it's another form of control. And that's why I
Yeah.
think Project Bluebeam is going to be this. And I think they're doing this with immigration as well to insert digital IDs. And y'all can say I'm crazy, but the framework is there. Its framework is in Canada. We've seen that where they tried to push with the vaccine passports here in Canada. Did you guys have vaccine passports in the States?
No.
We had vaccine passports, my dude, and you weren't allowed to go into a restaurant or a gym, pretty much anywhere that wasn't an essential without your vaccine passport to prove that you got a vaccine. So for I think it was 4 or 5 months, we couldn't go to the gym, we couldn't go to any restaurants, we couldn't go to any concerts and there was
Sad.
literal proof. There's literal proof from the BC government and the health industry, I'll call it, where they said that there was no scientific proof on the vaccine passports. They just needed to push people to get more vaccines to get the numbers up because the hesitancy was so high. And that's why majority of the people that I knew that were hesitant, that were like literally the final hour was like the week before the vaccine passports went in. And that was right at the beginning of our winter here, where it is sunny from about 8 a.m. till about 4 p.m. So
Oh,
basically, if you work, you're in dark all the time. So, you try to go and do things. You can't do that. You can't go to concerts. You can't go to funeral homes. You can't go to old people's homes. You couldn't go to restaurants. You could literally go to the grocery store and your job if you were lucky. Some people were forced to get the vaccine to go to work. I worked remote and I looked at my boss and I said, which is a different boss now, but I said to him, if they push the vaccine, understand that I'll be putting in my 2 weeks and quitting because I am not getting a vaccine for a fucking job. I will work and be a goddamn gas jockey if I have to
yeah.
survive, but you are not forcing me. But dude, there was a time in the pandemic, I don't think a lot of people really realize, and I think a lot of us just kind of push past, where I truly believe they were going to come and grab me from my home and force this injection on me.
Oh.
And that's where I do believe that they build these algorithms on the opposite side to make you equally as fearful, to push you down these conspiracy holes. So you are a person that's like, I don't trust anything. I'm so fearful of life. I do also think that's a form of psyop. You know what I mean? I'm at the point where
Yeah.
in the psyop is a psyop and the whole world's a psyop. That's where I'm at.
I mean, I red pill myself every day because like I'll follow
100%.
someone and then they'll be like, oh, that person's controlled. And I'll be like, dang, I really like them. I mean, like, I red pill. It's hard. It's just
Or is that
hard.
controlled? Is that controlled to say that person's controlled? Do you know what I
I
mean?
know
Like,
it's really hard, and I think that's why, like in the Bible, when they said in the end times, even the elect will be deceived. I think the churches are deceived. I think everyone's freaking deceived. But I did this Bible study that I really loved, and got a lot from. And then as I woke up, and got even further down my many rabbit holes, and I discovered this whole thing called elite gender inversion, which is like a whole nother topic we could go into
yes. Part two.
on another one, and
Yeah.
it is like a whoa.
Yeah.
But what you realize is that in these cultures, these pagan, esoteric, satanic, Luciferian cultures, they believe that the divine androgyne is like a godlike status, like especially like the Kabbalah gets roped in. The Kabbalah teaches that God started out as a man versus man and woman together and then broke out like all
Oh,
this
I see. I see where you're going. Yeah. 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 Interesting.
so Just know a lot of people in Hollywood, most people in Hollywood are not the sex that you think they are. It's like a
Yes.
whole thing.
I think you and
So
my mom would be best friends. Honestly, I think you're both at that same level because that's what she's she's like, "Oh yeah, well, Megan Fox is a man." and
she is a man.
I'm
If
like,
you watch Fox News and you watch
"Not
Laura
women."
Ingraham and she's got that massive Adam's apple, and you're like, oh my god, like I can't believe people even think she gets away with it. You know what I mean? It's so obvious.
It's
Um,
just it is really insane though, and I think that's where people just don't get it is that they just get hyper, and it's like, but there's a lot more deeper to this that some people have fallen into that go back historical, right? And then at the same time, it's just like people fight themselves in their own arguments all the time, right? Like it's like, oh, it's been around forever. Oh no, it's not. This is new. It's like, well, has it been around forever? Or is it new? Like, well,
I know.
what
Well, in
one
the
is
Bible,
it?
they called them eunuchs. It's been going on a long time. So, oh, anyway, so to finish my
Totally.
story, I
Yes.
loved this Bible study that I did with this woman called Priscilla Shearer.
Yeah.
And I used to, even when I was doing it, I was like, wow, she's really tall. She's really big, big
Yeah.
woman. You know,
Yeah.
she looks kind of like Michelle Obama. This was like 3 years ago. Need I say more? And
Nope.
so, and then I was watching this video, this like movie called The War Room,
Mm.
which the concept behind it was great. It was about
Yeah.
like creating like a prayer room for yourself, and because prayer does change things, you know,
Totally.
But I would go to watch this movie, and I'm like, holy shit! Look at Priscilla. No woman would have shoulders like that or
Mm.
clavicles like that or
Mm.
like that build. Like then you start seeing the gender markers, and I red pilled myself so hard because then I realized this woman that I thought like, you know, that I loved this her Bible study so much was really a man, which lets me
Interesting.
know that she's participating in the club
Yeah.
is my point.
Yeah.
And so
That's so cool.
uh you'll never get past the point of real of like where you red pill yourself all the time, and that's okay. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like consider it a blessing that you're still learning things and
Mhm.
God and like that, you know, like it's
Yeah.
better to know than not know, I think.
100%. 100%. And to act on it, right? Like we've all been there. I think we all go through that, where it's like, oh my gosh, I actually have to have a lot of personal responsibility. And I think that's what's very terrifying to a lot of people is that they because the world is so hard, life is so hard, they really just want the authorities, the professionals to be able to give them the answer and just put that responsibility to someone else. The doctor said for me to do this, the government told me to do this. Like, I really don't have to be responsible for my life. I just wake up, I go through my day, I MPC, I check in, I check out. If something happens to me, well, that's not my fault because I didn't make the decision. I was just doing what the government told me or my boss told me or whatever. And I feel like all of that comes from a lack of wanting to have personal responsibility because being a responsible person means looking at the food that you're eating. It means looking at the relationships that you're having. It means looking at your purpose in life. And are you just checking in boxes? Are you doing something? Are you distracting yourself every Sunday by watching all these? That one, I think you shared it too, was the son coaching the mom not to be so conspiracy talk at Christmas. And
That
that
one
one
was
was
so
so
good.
good, right? And so I was like,
That
oh, I'd
lady
love.
reminds me of my mom.
Yeah, I was like, man, I wish I could just sit down and talk to her all the time. But like I just love how it too. It's like we got to know these things. I think it's important to talk about it, but when you make it your whole identity and you make it to the point where you're so depressed, right? That's the part where you have to understand that it's been like this forever. It's always probably going to be this way. And the whole point of it is if the world's like this and we've come down to evolve, to enlighten and learn lessons, are we ever really going to be able to change it? Or are we only really able to focus on changing ourselves and being better people and having that ripple effect out to others by trying to live more towards a godlike world where we're being
Yeah,
kind, where, what, like I said, I go back to it and I'm like, where, again, I've not read the scripture, okay? I'm saying, from my understanding, even on the outside, where has there been a negativity to try and learn to live, to be more like God, to be more present, to be more helpful, to do all those
yeah,
things? And anything that takes you away from that, I think are the things that you need to focus on because it's taking you away from personal responsibility and sovereignty, where you're responsible for yourself through the strength of God. That's just my interpretation. And the
yeah,
more we get away from personal responsibility and checking ourselves is where shit has gone crazy and chaotic, where we do what we want and fuck everything and fuck all that. And it's like, okay, yeah, there's so many laws, but we also have to self govern ourselves and be better people, right? And I
yeah,
think if we could go through that and focus on ourselves and not everything our neighbors are doing, although we sometimes need to call out if they're beating their children or stuff, you know what I mean? I think if
yeah,
we start taking more personal responsibility, the world just by nature will start healing itself. But it's because we've put that responsibility on someone else. And that could be too much on God. That could be too much on religion. That could be too much on government, too much on healthcare professionals, right? Where it's like you got to become the own expert for yourself and learn discernment and learn symbols and learn when you're being brainwashed a message, and, and like again,
Mm-hmm.
getting closer to God. Like on Sundays, again, I have class, we do cardio for the most part, we do affirmations, that's a positive thing. Maybe I'm not going to church, but um coming back to the values in which that church is supposed to be sharing the word of God. And I don't think it
Yeah.
has for a long time. But if that makes
Well, and
sense, like
yeah,
that
it should be
focus.
Bible based. It shouldn't be all that other BS coming that they're writing in,
Yeah.
you know.
Or taking
And
out.
there's so many Bibles where they've taken a lot of they've written in notes that
Mhm.
people take to be true,
Yep.
aka like if you look at the Schofield Reference Bible, which is what a lot of has really kind of stood up what a lot of people call Christian Zionism.
Okay.
Like
Yep.
a
I've
lot
heard
of
that a lot
people.
lately.
And when I went to visit my grandma, she had the Schofield Reference Bible on her bedside table. But my point is that they wrote a lot of notes in that people took to be the Bible, and it's like, no, that's someone's,
Interpretation.
yeah,
Yeah.
and not true, and not what people in the Bible or what Jesus said. So,
It's like that phone
yeah. And the other
effect.
thing that the Bible says, it says like over 100 times, don't be fearful, fear not. You know, like God doesn't want us to be fearful. Like He's with us,
Hmm.
and you can't live your life in fear. You
Hmm.
know, like I'm sure you've heard that expression, faith over fear, but I think really that's what it comes down to. And but you do also have to trust, like use your discernment,
Hmm.
ask God to guide you. Like, can I trust this? You know what I mean? And like you should never trust your government institutions because we know
No.
that they believe in depopulation. So
Yes.
they do not have your best interests at heart.
They're a business. They're a business at the
Yeah.
end of the day, and
Yeah.
cutting costs and maximizing profits, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because, like, listen, if I had a choice, I would have voted Trump besides Kamala and Biden type situation. I would have. But like to your point, the minute you say something against him, everyone jumps down the throat and trust the plan. I'm like, you're starting to sound like QAnon, and like, I'm sorry, I just don't understand someone so rich. Like, why can't we talk about the fact that Trump was the one that pushed the vaccine and he was very proud
Yeah.
of those
He
vaccines.
calls
And
himself the
now
father of the vaccine or whatever. That's despicable.
Project Warp Speed, no one wants to talk about that. Now it's like, oh, well, we're going to pull this. And now he's amazing. And everyone's like, I guess my point is you could go in there and you can see a bunch of people saying he's looking the long game. You can find anything online that's going to validate your biases, I guess is what I'm saying. And you have to be cognizant of that. And you have to, if you want to be an actual person that's searching truth, you have to look at all sides, not just the side that's going to validate what you think is right. And I think when we have egos in there, we can't. In politics, there's too much egos because people want to be right and they want to win. And it's not about like actually being right. It's about winning and what's going to get me that, and it's just, I think to your point, lower levels, there's good people. I think there's people in lower levels of government that are trying so hard. But the minute you get up to that federal level, look at Kash Patel. I believe that man, I truly do, maybe I'm wrong. I believe that he did want to do good. And I think there's a lot of people that get in these positions that be like, when I get in here, I'm going to do these things. And then you start signing documents and you start signing NDAs and you start signing contracts for your job, probably that you're not even fully reading. And then you're like, I'm going to go do this. And they're like, oh, you sign this NDA here. You can't say fuck all.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's like
And you were also
all
paid off by a bunch of lobbyists. It's the lobbyists
100%
that's what's really running all
greed.
this.
And it comes back down to greed because you can make money. You're making money. The greed made you want to make even more money. Right. And
How
so
can
it's
someone
like,
like Nancy Pelosi be a
oh,
multi-millionaire when if you're in Congress you make like what, not even 100,000 a year or something?
Justin Trudeau is a billionaire. I don't think we pay the Prime Minister of Canada that much. So was it all the money that? And this is like the big corruption that I've shown in people in our government. It's like, okay, the Liberals have approved a project. Let's say Arrive Scan. This was you arrive to Canada with your vaccine passport. Yeah,
Mm.
it was like $1 million project that there was a bunch of people that were going to do it cheaper for like a tenth of the cost. But instead, the Liberal government and Trudeau's government went with a friend of his in a basement kind of situation business and got those millions of dollars, and it was a complete fucking failure. But then we go to find out that there was bids of stuff cheaper. It just wasn't related to anybody in the Liberal Party. So it's like if people don't understand that level of corruption, they don't understand, right? Like I don't know about your government, but my government just sent another 2.5 billion to Ukraine, and we're all
Where
fine
does
with
the money
that.
even come from? I think they just print it. That's why we have so much inflation. The
Yeah.
Federal Reserve just prints it. They're not run by, they're a private entity.
Yep.
They just do whatever they
100%.
want.
Yep.
Um,
It's gross. It's
it
gross.
is gross.
And we're being sold, essentially, is what it feels like. I'm not trying to be
Well,
that way.
that's what the birth certificate is. It's a document they trade on us. Isn't that what bond trading is? They
Pretty
trade on
much,
like
isn't it?
what our capacity to earn is over a lifetime, and they trade on it.
Seems
Just
like it.
just terrible. Yeah,
And
it's
that's where
kind
you
of
just don't stop, right? I know. That's where I'm like, hey, back to the point. It's like, it's good to, I think it's at the end of the day, if these things don't intrigue you, they just intrigue my brain. I'm a curious little
me too.
creature and I like to know these things. Do I take everything as fact? No, but I'm open to that. I don't know shit about fuck and I'm not going to be surprised. You know, and I
Yeah.
think that's a better
Yep.
place. And what my focus is now is I'll read it, I'll dabble in it, I'll have episodes about it, but I'm not walking around my house going, "Oh my god, I just used one cleaner and it's not the most less toxic, so now my cat's going to get cancer." Like I'm not doing that anymore because it's not
Yeah.
healthy and I think that your mind also has a big play in how things are received in your body. And if you're fearful of everything, that intentionality is going to go to how your body is going to react with it, right? So it's being like, I'm going to do the best and having the personal responsibility to eat better, exercise, pray, spend more time off your
Yeah.
phone and in real life with community. How are you helping? Like going back to all those basics and having the personal
Yeah.
responsibility, you'll feel better. Like, oh, am I drinking better water? Am I, you know what I mean? Am I relying on medication? I'm not doing a fucking thing to help my depression or my anxiety. Like, where in the world can you be more responsible for yourself so you're not so fearful of everything? I think once you can do more things for yourself and build that confidence that you're taking care of yourself, you won't be so fearful of other things coming in to hurt you because you're in control. But when you put everything out in your whole entire life into control of somebody else, you're always going to be fearful that it's just going to end. Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah. And I think there's like a phase when you first get like turn when you kind of break yourself out of the matrix
Yeah.
and then you go down those all those rabbit holes and there's like a dark time that happens and I think hopefully people can pull themselves out of it um and focus on the positive and just not be fearful,
Yep.
right? Because God is still in control. He is
Yes.
still in control. He says not to be fearful and you're just going to do the best you can, right?
Yeah.
Like, like you said, are those cleaning wipes super? Are they toxic? Maybe a little bit, but you're doing the best you can. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like you're
You could beat
knowledgeable of
yourself
these
up.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still have to live your life. You still have
Yes.
to function in real life. All the things, and you don't like fear is like a low frequency, and they want us to be fearful, right?
Exactly.
That's they thrive on that. So don't let them,
No.
the Satanists that run the world, like no,
Yes.
like
And that's what I mean. Like, I don't think smoking weed's always the best, but I'm doing it with good intentions, right? So I don't go into every single time smoking weed being like, I'm going to get lung cancer because I'm smoking it, but I'm aware that it could happen. And if that's the path that I've taken, I kind of have this weird faith that anything I'm about to face, I've already chose for myself to learn that virtue, to be able to go back to God, to go back to wherever source and be like, this is what I learned in this lifetime that I was here. And that sounds fucked up because it's like, how could you choose bad things that happen to you? Because out of every bad thing, we learn something, unfortunately.
it's
And we
true.
can't get rid of it, right? We can't. I wish I could. I wish I had the power to make the world perfect, and that nobody was going through stuff. But then what would be the point of living? Isn't that the idea of going to heaven and being done so that you get to live in eternal bliss? But to
Yeah,
get there, you have to do the work. You have to learn the lessons to then be able to appreciate that. And you're
yeah.
probably going to get it wrong and you're going to have to go back. Some of us are stubborn. Okay. Some of us are not going to learn the lessons, but as you
Well,
wonder
you
what
don't
you
appreciate it if you don't go through it.
exactly.
If it was just handed to you, would you appreciate it?
And
No.
chances are not, right? So I always think too, when you're going through hard stuff, and it's hard to think about that when you come through, what did that teach you? Because I can guarantee I could go back through every hard thing in my life and tell you something that it taught me. Now, do I wish I didn't go through it? Sure, but I wouldn't be the human I am today if I didn't have an alcoholic father that pieced out. I wouldn't be who I was today if, I had a very young mama and she was a single mom by herself and learned what it was like to be poor and work really hard for your family and be your own thing, right? All that shit's hard. But I look back and I go, well, I really kind of love who I am today.
Yeah.
She's got some things, but we all do, right?
It made
So
you the hustler that you are, you know?
exactly, right? So all those bad things are teaching you something. And I guess it all depends on what you believe we're here for. And if you could look at it that you made a decision with God that these are the lessons that you were going to learn in this lifetime and you came down out of that pool, like we've talked about it before. I just envisioned that we're all upstairs and then we walk down into this pool and now we're on earth. And now we've got these lessons that we need to learn. Our memories have been erased. We don't know anything about this. We're starting as a baby and we're learning, and the people in our lives are here to help teach us those things, right? And
Yeah.
some people are familiar and you're like, I know you from a past life. Or you, like you said, meet people that have had an old soul and they just have this innate knowledge at like 20 and you're like, the fuck? Right? And then I'm always like, you must have reincarnated and come back, right? Or I must have met you in another life. Or hey, this lesson seems really familiar. I guess I guess I better learn. People, like I would see some people that come and it reminds me of a past friend. And let's say I don't feel like I operated properly at that friendship. I'm like, this is an opportunity to do this better, you know? And then I learned the lesson. And then I'm like, wow, this is so cool, right? So I think at the end of the day, if you could look at life as just lessons and this is all just fun information, you don't get so fearful.
Well, and I also think, at least this is what I tell myself, that like we were chosen for such a time as this, right? Like there's a reason we're here right now. I don't think God is accidental in things. I think that there are no coincidences. So we're here for a reason and we're going to do the best we can, you know?
Have fun while we're doing it.
Like, if I, when I even think about exactly, we're having fun with it. Like for me, like, yes, the world's a crazy place. I'm sure if I walked out right now, I'd see a bunch of chemtrails and get triggered and upset. But, but I also think like, I'm appreciative that I love to learn so much. You know what I mean? That I want to know. Like some people are like, I don't want to know. I'd rather not know. And that I don't understand that. That's not me. Maybe that's why I was like a journalism major. Like I want to know. And we have so much information at our fingertips. And I just feel like, we can use this for good. We can use it to better ourselves. Like I feel like life is never dull. Like even now, like I'm like, that's my goal for 2026. Grow closer to God. He'll work on my health. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely, and my stress levels, like, I got my tests back, my labs back, and I had 2 sets of tests run and both were high in cortisol. And cortisol, like consistently high cortisol is really bad for you. That can lead to things like dementia over time. And I've had adrenal fatigue for years, which I think actually most women have some form of adrenal fatigue, which is just like your body's like worn out from being stressed out all the time, but like if I can take what I'm trying to learn to heal myself, which some of it has been learned a really hard way, like fracturing my soul came from having too much stress that I put on myself. So
feel that.
I'm like, all right, Lord, I get that I'm like learning some hard lessons here, but you know what I mean? Like if we can take that information and share it with others that can be beneficial to them, then that's a beautiful thing, like, so I think we have purpose. We're not meant to be fearful. I think God's revealing a lot of truth to people right now. And it's really cool to be like a light in a dark time, right? Like,
and not be affected by it like I used to,
Yeah.
like where something would happen, I'd be like, oh my God. And I'm just like, yeah, it's interesting to know, but I'm not going to like spend 17 hours arguing in the comment sections about whether things are right or wrong. Like I just leave people where they are. This is the information of where I gathered in this point of my life. And if you agree, awesome. If you don't, awesome. If you take some things, awesome. If you don't, awesome. If you have something to add, please do. Like I, again, don't know shit about fuck. This is just what I've read. I understand that I could be pushed through and be delivered information strictly because that's a ploy by someone in, like big information, we'll call it, you know what I mean? Like in this information war where people are spent fighting each other about what's right and what's wrong and getting away from what matters. And I think that's what kind of war that we're in right now. And back to your point of it being spiritual, and are you going to feed into the continual divide because you'll find anything to divide anybody on? No one is ever going to agree. Or are you just going to sit back and go, well, love light, I'm going to work on myself, I'm going to figure out how I can live better in the eyes of God, so that at the end of the day, when I'm showing my resume of what I did here on earth, that I didn't waste 17 years arguing with people online. I actually was like, how, and that's not saying that we don't go through that, but I think when I'm doing that, what am I not doing personally to help others? That took time for me talking to a new podcast guest. That took time researching a topic. That took time out of being with my family, being with my cats. Like where could we be better in our own lives instead of trying to tell?
Distraction, right?
It is. And are you going to participate it? Because you're always going to find someone that agrees with you and someone that disagrees with you. What are you going to, like, are you going to build yourself an echo chamber of only the same things? No, that's very dangerous. Are you just going to sit here and fight everyone against you? No, that's dangerous. So why not just go, que sera, sera. It is what it is. Like either you're going to agree with me or you're not, and move on and leave it at that. Like
and
sometimes people might,
I
Yeah,
do
and
a lot
sometimes
of seed planting, and then
exactly.
it's like, like
Maybe
all
it
of
dies, maybe it grows.
yeah, the seeds planted. Like my
Yes.
husband said something the other day, and I was like, maybe I planted so many seeds that were like he said something about Bill Gates, and I literally couldn't tell if he was making fun of me or being truthful.
Oh, see, this is why I didn't put this fucking thing on because I keep getting caught. See, that's why I put my penis, my
I love it.
tinfoil penis down. I thought maybe I could just have it for the end, and then I already got caught.
It's
Exactly like
valid.
I said.
It's
Um,
valid.
but it's
So
true,
if
and
someone calls you a dickhead, it's
exactly.
literal.
Yeah, I'm a conspiracy theorist dickhead. Um, but I think too, the idea is again having these conversations, but being light about it. Like we joke all the time in our house about it, and it's okay because we don't fight to the death about it, right? And maybe you should, and that's a part of your relationship journey to learn that about each other. But I'm just meaning if by learning conspiracy theories, either believing them or not, being for them or against them, put something extremely negative on you for a long time, just let it go. But if you're a
Right.
person that could just observe information, like read it just like you're reading a fiction book, it's pretty much the same because no one's ever going to really fucking know because we're never ever going to get the
I
actual
know.
real truth, right? So
Exactly.
why have a
And if it makes
negative?
your life negative, if it's
Exactly.
bringing negativity, let it go.
Just have fun. But like for me, I find it entertaining and interesting. I'm like, oh, what kind of alien story are we going to go with now? Or like
Right?
what? Because I just like to hear where people's brain goes. What's the difference of watching like fiction on TV or movies? To me, there's no difference. It's just in a
I
form of
think it's the
different
same.
way, right? So it's like
Mhm.
I can watch, everyone's cool with watching the Kardashians, but like God fucking forbid that I want to watch like body cam from a true crime thing on YouTube. Like somehow I'm the crazy person. I'm like, but this is real life though. Like at least I'm not watching fiction. Even if you like your fantasy novels, ladies, your fucking smut novels, let me have my conspiracy theories.
Exactly.
You think that there's a man that can find that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? Like everyone has their own yums and don't yuck them all the time, but don't get too deep. But anyways, this is amazing for part one. I know we didn't get deep into the actual topics that we wanted to talk about,
No,
but
it's fine.
I
I
think
thought we
this is I think this is a prelude of like conspiracy theories in general, like being honest about them. Like just because someone believes some
totally.
things doesn't mean that they're full blown like meaning everything. And even if they do, what's that to you? Like have a real conversation with them. Maybe you'll be able to teach them something. Maybe
Yeah.
that person got stuck in their echo chamber and you need to help them out because I've been
Yeah.
there, right? So like let's lead with some compassion and curiosity. That's me for
100%.
2026. Compassion
Yeah.
and curiosity about all things and being open
Yeah. Yeah.
and understanding that my cognitive dissonance could have cognitive dissonance as well.
100%.
You could layer it on.
If
Like
you're
and
not
that
giving yourself cognitive dissonance every day, you're doing something wrong.
you absolutely are. Yeah. If your ego is just like, I know everything, I've been so enlightened, I run from people like that. I'm like, there's so much in the
Right?
world. We can continue learning. And like you said, you red pill yourself every day. Those are the people that I want to be around that are open to things changing. Cause in my opinion, that's true science. But I'm not a scientist
Yes.
and far from it. But that's what I thought that that's what the world is questioning. And then
Amen, sister. We
learn it
should
and then
be.
questioning it again, right? Like, but doesn't mean that like that we hate everyone and think the world's evil and that we don't have a good life. No, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to go have some breakfast, go to the gym, edit, and live my life. I'm not going to actually not going to lie.
Sounds
I was like,
amazing.
is this a good idea to wear this much tinfoil with this much electricity going through my head? Like,
Maybe it's repelling it. I don't know. I
I'm
know.
not
I'm
going to
like, I feel
lie.
like I'm like reflecting my light.
I know. I feel like my head is starting to hurt. And I'm like, oh God, did I just give myself? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But, anyways, guys, I think the point that me and Robin want to make is just be open. Be open. Be open. Be willing. But don't be like concrete in these things.
Accept new information and process it,
As you
and
need to.
connect dots as you need to, but always be open to learning new things, I think is the point. And
Yeah.
don't take things for face value.
No, no. And I think in part two, what we should do is take a couple of those topics and like I can actually share screen on here and we can share some of the things and articles and go through like a show and tell of a
I love
couple,
it.
which I thought we are gonna do today, but I think it's I think it was better to have a conversation about conspiracy theories and how people get there and all of that because I feel like the conspiracy theory word itself is its own conspiracy theory and psyop.
Yeah, it is. They made it have a bad connotation. We should call ourselves conspiracy realists is
I
what we should.
just 100. I just feel like being like pattern cognitions.
Yeah,
Like
you
what's
recognize
the
patterns.
same?
You're a
Yeah.
pattern recognizer and a dot
Yes.
connector. That's what
And
it really is.
and if you've been abused, I feel like sometimes it's a lot easier because as you're going through your abuse healing, you look back and you're like, where did I miss things? Where did this? And then you start searching other that's when it was anti-MLM stuff for me, it was because I had been burned by so many MLMs. So that when I found anti-MLM content, I was like, holy shit, I'm being validated on this. And that felt
Yeah.
so good. So it's like, but then I got down the rabbit hole of like okay, now I got too much and every single one is trash and everyone's out to hurt everyone. And it's like, no, that's not entirely true. Like, so just be cognizant that you can have extremes, and to not just label people anything. I think at the end of the day, I'm just so tired of labels, and just think about it. Think things. Don't put yourself in a box to what someone labeled you as, like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. No, I just like to think. I just like to ask questions, and they might be taboo, but there's people that diddle children on this earth, so maybe focus on them and not me.
Right?
Talking about the diddlers, being a diddler, two different things. Can we focus? And we won't even start on fucking Diddy and 50 Cent and that whole Tupac and Biggie conspiracy, because that one just now broke right open all over again, right? So it's like, are these people even fucking dead? Are they all actors on an island somewhere with Elvis and Brittany Murphy and fucking now Rob Rayner, and his wife? Like, it just, again, not another distraction, not saying they didn't get murdered, but
there's definitely some pedo stuff that happened in the Reiner family.
I think so too.
Starting with his dad, there's some stuff that came out. That's the Hollywood currency.
It absolutely is, his children. And that's another one that I want to get into. So yes, anyways, amazing episode. I knew we would hit 2 hours. Thank you so much again, Robin, for coming in the first episode for 2026. Yay! And so we'll come back probably beginning of season 11. Let's do like a PowerPoint presentation and be like, this is why. PowerPoint. Exactly. So then we got some time to build PowerPoints for our conspiracy nights. And now we have the hats made. So we're ready, guys. Custom made. Link in bio. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I actually was thinking I would love to have an outlet to share all of this research I've done and put it in a PowerPoint. And you just...
Now we can do it. Now we can make it happen. We'll each do our own PowerPoint of our different topics, and we'll present it to each other and everybody.
I love it.
I think it's great. But guys, just be open, be fun, be free, be real. That's all that we're trying to do here. Is we're just trying to be real with our thoughts and not trying to appease people and not try to worry about eggshells and shit like that. Like, let's be done with that. Let's just be honest, talk honestly, and not be so serious. Like, come on, you guys. Like, Donald Trump is your president. Mark Carty's our prime minister. What are we talking? We've got clowns running everywhere. So let's just...
Michelle Obama is a man.
Exactly. Michael Obama is a thing. And don't even get me started on the Clintons. Like, don't even get me started on the Clintons. But anyways, let's end with that one. Thank you, Robin, so much for coming. Thanks, guys, for listening.
This is fun.
Don't forget to follow Robin. Even though we didn't talk about girls today, you can find her Girl Go Robin, right? On Instagram.
Yep, Girl Go Robin.
Perfect. To find her, because we're going to flip her into her no page. Is going to go from grilling to conspiracies in the next... No, I'm just kidding.
Conspiracy Carrie's coming out. I might need a new page.
We are going to have a new page. But thanks, guys, for listening. And until the next episode, guys, bye. Thank you guys so much for listening. I truly appreciate the support. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, please follow the Be Real Babe podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Rumble. You can also find me at the Be Real Babe podcast on TikTok and Instagram. Until next time, guys. Bye.